Come on, Wimkin. It's been slow the last couple nights. There it is. Success. Going live. Liv, give me a green light. 3 seconds. Still trying to go live. Still trying. Still struggling. Tell me what we got, honey.
It says you're live.
Great. Closing it right now. Leave page. Everybody else 5x5. Facebook, all that.
I'm looking right now.
Thanks, babe. Just let me know where we're at.
Facebook's good.
Okay. I'm going to get Facebook invite out to groups, and then we should be copacetic.
YouTube's good.
I'm not showing us up on Facebook yet. 1 second with a quick refresh. No, nobody pushed the wrong button. It's after 4 years, we're pretty damn good of figuring out glitches. It was a IP failure from server side, so no idea. But Wimkin was the first to fail, and then the rest followed suit. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show, everybody. Got a good show for you tonight.
Twitter's good.
Which one?
Twitter.
Thank you.
And I'm checking Rumble right now.
All right, Facebook's notification just went out. Let me know if we're green on that.
Twitter or Rumble's good.
Okay, check your Facebook notification. Let me make sure. Then pop smoke. You talk to your wife like that? Yes.
Yep.
We are live on Facebook.
All right, outstanding. Wow, Leeroy, you sure look a lot better now with your new camera setup. You almost look like you belong on the show. Glad we fixed that.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you look good, dude. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. I didn't blame the gear. I blamed the IP. It's not mine. I don't control the IP addresses for network servers from regional. That's not me. That's the infrastructure of the United States of America. Thank you very much. It was not a failure on our side. Everyone take a second. Get yourself logged in. Get yourself situated. We're going to rock and roll. We'll be back. We got JFK stuff, whole bunch of other stuff. Olivia's on donations tonight. We'll see you in 3 minutes. Liv, Judy says we're not on Rumble. That I hear most often, that I always try to help people connect the dots, is what is past is prologue. And although Shakespeare, not my favorite, it's an interesting thing when you look at 1980 and the crack epidemic and what the United States government was involved in with the Contras.
No kidding.
So I don't understand why people are so shocked and they call Roseanne a conspiracy theorist. because there's evidence in the past of the government getting involved in this, and there's plenty of books on this, and you can read this.
Hey, here's what I think. I love your show, by the way, Matt Spear, and
Thank you,
watched
ma'am.
you. Just discovered you about a week ago.
Ma'am,
And I
how
went, oh my God, this guy's a genius. The facts he can spew.
God, I love you.
You can spew fact, and that's the sign of a genius.
Thank you, ma'am. I've even lost a little bit of weight since that night. Yeah, I was getting a little puffy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a little puffy.
Man, I don't know. I think you look fine there.
I appreciate you saying that, but besides the giant forehead, it's definitely receding from Mars faster than just about anything else in the universe.
Oh, I appreciate you asking me that.
So you just made my life.
I do remember back when they were bringing the crack cocaine into the black neighborhoods, and that proved that the CIA was doing it because they were grooming that population.
She was just recently was doing a video with Tom McDonald.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts Matt, Leeroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered.
Don't change your lighting.
We can agree. We can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
Off.
It wasn't that.
Oh, what were you touching? Well, besides that, the other thing. We're gonna have a good day. Look good, dude. I can't wait. I can't wait till we kick the kid out. When are we kicking the kid out?
Oh my God! Right?
T minus when?
I don't know. We don't. I mean, it's been so. This has been an odd month for all of us. We had to put a cat down and some other stuff. So everyone's kind of still moping around a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about that. That sucks.
Yeah. On the more pleasant side, I went a cruise from work, so that's nice.
You went a cruise? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Are they sending you to the Black Sea? That's
no, not that kind. This is a legitimate kind of cruise. Yeah. This is the kind where you get. Yeah. No, this isn't that.
Where are you going?
Royal Caribbean. I'm letting my wife pick it. Yeah.
Yeah, like Turks and Caicos type thing, or something like that.
She called the cruise line today, and I guess they offered her like 4 or 5 different options, and I was like, "Honey, just pick what you want. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care where we go.
Yeah,
right? I've seen water. Life, right? I know what it looks like, and so I'm letting her pick it. I don't know when.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah,
I guess everyone is getting their blankets, their Sherpa blankets from the Don't Unfriend Me store, and everyone's so stoked. Someone's like, well, I wish they were bigger. Yeah, well, I mean, if you want me to charge $300 for a blanket, hey, Maddie, the Don't Unfriend Me Constitution book, folks, this is actually a book that is designed by Library of Congress, Smithsonian, 144 pages, full edition for the Constitution. Everything has the amendments, has a picture of the Constitution inside of it, and also the biographies of all the framers. It's a beautiful book. It is amazing. It is full leather. It's not the fake leather. So just as the quality of the Documents of Freedom, but this is a 9x6 full-size book, so it'll fit into your library. It's got beautiful gold inlay, and it says the Constitution of the United States of America. No, the Gulf of America is not announced, but I'm glad everyone is warm with their new Sherpa blankets. My name is Matt Spear. I'm the host of Don't Unfriend Me. This is Leeroy.
Hi.
And everyone says you got sun on your cheeks, and I don't think it's sun on your cheeks.
No, I move my lights. We move my lights because I am constantly fidgeting with things, and I can't ever let it be. And every time I come on the show, there's some discussion of either the lighting or my camera, and I'm not very good at this kind of thing. I'm not technical, folks. So
yeah.
So,
but the good news is that he has a camera waiting for him. There's my down vote. Thank you, whoever voted us down. Remember, your fingers just hit the wrong button. Please hit the up vote. But his camera's waiting for him. We just got to kick his kid out of the basement, and then the universe will be ours. Pinky in the brain. Have you been listening to the new? So you're right. You won a cruise. What did you win a cruise for? Did you?
So I had a couple of
camels or something.
No, I wish it was something that cool, right? It'd be fun if I found out that it was for some sort of analytic, one of my papers that got published and some senator read it. No, it wasn't anything sexy like that.
Yeah.
It was, I referred a couple of people into work, they got jobs, and they've been with the company for a long enough period of time that they chose me for the lottery.
So that's like really similar to what I did for meritorious advancement at the beginning of my career, and you're doing it around the end. So I didn't win a cruise. Well, I did. I did win a cruise. I got assigned to the USS
not the same
Blue Ridge.
kind.
Yeah, different cruise, but got my crow, and well, no, I got my E3 meritoriously advanced, and then I semi earned my crow. But then that's at the beginning of the career, but you got it at the end. So you got a cruise. I'll take the cruise.
Yeah.
That $90 extra in pay really didn't make much of a difference back then, but a cruise, on the other hand, that's something else.
Right.
This is your first cruise, though. I mean, I know you've been deployed.
No, I've been on other cruises, like party cruises, and it's a cruise ship. What do you say? They're crowded. The best you can hope for is that there's high seas. Everyone gets confined to the rooms where they can bang it out all night.
Yeah, I can't imagine. My kids want to go. My wife wants to go, and I'm like, I cannot think of anything worse than going on a vessel with 5,000 people. I've been there. I've done that. No thanks. No desire.
Don't rock the boat, baby. Yeah.
Like, I would sell the tickets and like go rent a cabin in the middle of the sticks and like do my best Ted Kaczynski. Yeah, I mean, I love that too. So it looks like Tim Pool is moving out of West Virginia. He's getting out, and I'm kind of like thinking about seriously putting an offer in on his place. Seriously, like,
you'll have to let me know.
I'm very
West Virginia is not that far from me.
Well, it's 12 miles from me. Like, no, I'm like 3 miles from Tim. Like, I can throw a rock at Tim's house, and I'm like, new studio. I can drive there every day. How much is he asking for it? Right? It's West Virginia. Yeah, it's probably going to be It's probably be 900,000. But the point is I want to check it out. It's got living. It's got audio. It's got everything else. It's like a little retreat. And if he's really leaving, I'd be happy to go to West Virginia. Still keep my residence here, of course, but use that as an office or something. But I don't know.
That would be cool.
That would require. That would be dope. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sure somebody will come in and buy it and raise horses or pigs or something there. Anyway, welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. We got a lot to do tonight. We've got what a shite. Whole bunch of people on. Only 45. Only 45 on Twitter. A good 20 on YouTube. 79 on Facebook. That's a good start. Considering we're just on, and we got a whole shit ton on Rumble. I think 70 people on Rumble.
Right. Yeah. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, folks.
Yeah, please do. All right, real quick. Olivia is going to be handling all the donations tonight. She does that when she's not on, and God love her, she's amazing. If you guys want to say something up here, you guys, if you like the show, it'll pop up and give you a little love. If you want to donate, it's your first time watching. You don't have to donate. It's free. You never have to donate. But we would love for you to. Oh, that's cool,
you, Bobby.
Super chat, but Bobby. Oh no, Bobby, don't do super chats. Is that call it? It popped up. Can you get your mom? Sorry, I want to tell Bobby something really quick. You guys, super chats, they take 60% of whatever you send. YouTube steals it.
No way.
Yeah, they take 60%. So it's really cool that you donate. We love you, but tell Bobby, thedumbshow.com.donate. She donated through super chat. They take 60% of that. They steal it. I know. And maybe it's another Bobby, and that's cool. And we love it. We appreciate it. So I just want to tell
Bobby
people,
R.
It says Bobby R, but that's not Bobby. Oh, it is Bobby Richardson. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's doing super chat. Oh, well, I just guys, just to let you know, super chat is one of the biggest ripoffs on the planet. So whenever you like go with content creators, not just with me, but if you donate to anybody, don't do it through YouTube. It's and same thing, stars on Facebook, they take 60% of that. And then you still have to pay the 40% taxes. So on like a $50 donation, I might see $10, maybe. So just a heads up, we appreciate every donation we get here. We love you for it, but don't use Super Chat. It's really not a good thing to do because they are not good people. No, Bobby, you don't need to make up for it later. I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you know nobody wants to give money to YouTube because YouTube's a devil. All right. So anyway, what's that?
I said
you
pretty
say
much.
Pretty much.
They're the devil.
They are. But listen, it's a wonderful thing. No complaining. I feel bad for Bobby because I know Bobby and she wants to make sure the money goes into the show.
Yeah.
In this case, when it goes to YouTube, it doesn't. They steal most of it. And what's funny is that you have to have a $100 threshold. So they hold it for months if you don't make the $100. They are horrible. They're evil. They just steal from content creators. They're horrible. Anyway, good to see so many people on. Let's get going. We got a ton to do. Let's start with trying to think what
there's a lot going on, by the way.
There's a shit ton.
Even when I was at work, there was just more and more headlines that were coming in. I'm amazed at the amount of freak out from the left, just either making up headlines of their own or overreacting to the already existing headlines and taking them way out of context. And it's going to it seems like it's going to be one of those things where we're going to have 4 years of this because they're just at the beginning stage of their temper tantrum.
Why am I streaming on YouTube? Because it's a way to get noticed, but that's why we have committed our own donation site. YouTube doesn't endorse us. They demonetized us. There's no benefit other than to bring people on. So it's not about being a zealot. It's about keeping your fishing pole in the water because you're never gonna know when you're gonna get a bite. So it's not viewers' fault that YouTube sucks. It's not viewers' faults that Facebook does this. So they shouldn't be punished. YouTube is unethical. They run a horrible business model. Unless you're producing 10, 20 million views on videos, you're getting hamstrung. So not a complaint, just a fact. So why am I streaming on YouTube? Because my fans shouldn't have to not watch me on YouTube. I just encourage people not to donate on YouTube because it is horrible. Is a check or money order a better venue for donation? Honestly, it doesn't matter. Venmo and PayPal are awesome. And a lot of people have a problem with PayPal, which I don't understand. They've been nothing but awesome to me. They've never, ever done anything remotely questionable. They've always taken care of me. Venmo does a good job with us. But if you mail a check or a money order, I think money order is a good thing. Checks nowadays, things can happen. It can get lost. And I don't want your account at risk. So a money order is fine. You can send cash if you want to. Whatever you want. Listen, if you want to donate through YouTube, do it. I'm just letting you know how YouTube runs things. Right. Locals does the same thing. But PayPal and Venmo, they take 2.5%, which is amazing. And it helps the content creators. But yeah, YouTube doesn't do a very nice job for its creators, unless you're, Mr. Beast or something, but that guy's so damn rich it doesn't matter. So here's something really, really important to me, and I wasn't going to share this, but my fascination for the John F. Kennedy assassination.
You've talked about it. I know that you said you've read literally every book. You've read the report. You've watched all of the movies. You've studied it.
Yeah. So I read all the volumes of the Warren Report at a very young age. I went through the entire litigation of Louisiana, New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison versus the United States government, and Clay Bertrand, and a few of the cover companies for the CIA. I've went through the entire David Lifton's best evidence. I've seen pretty much every version of the Zapruder film from, 20 times magnification. I've seen it run through AI. I've seen it run through digital processing.
Yeah.
My uncle was an avid John F. Kennedy enthusiast and really was at Lions Club's events, spoke on it, and I picked up the bug from him to not dive into the conspiracy theory, but when everything gets released, be around and be present and talk about it. And I want to be really conscientious of what this release means. A lot of people are thinking that the smoking gun is going to be found. It's not.
Probably not.
The last 4% of the documents that are remaining, the real true players has been. Thank you, Kev.
Thank you, Kev.
Appreciate you, Kev. It says good to have Leeroy back. It's always good. He's here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yeah. But the true files being released, the one thing that makes this an interesting release is that it won't be redacted. And there's some video I'm going to show you. There's some of why this wasn't released. Pompeo had some things to say, and there was an interview that's really interesting. Some of the people who are now turning this into no, Ginger, the report will not be fully redacted. That's the scrub and the rub. Is the original files aren't redacted. That's not the way an Intel file works. An Intel file has a serial code and essentially an assigned number where the case files and everything associated to it go to a subheader. Those files are not redacted. When files are taken out and copied or disseminated, then they are redacted, depending upon your clearance. So this is the way it works. So the files that he's talking about releasing are unredacted files, which would not be scrubbed. Now, there are some issues there. And the reason why is Pompeo will explain this when we watch the video. But it's not that all the files are 60 years ago, because there was an open investigation in 1990, a Freedom of Information Act in 97, 1970, the Garrison came in, 86, there was a case that was brought up by, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a Freedom of Information Act. So these all assets of collection or geopolitical situations that have some sinew tied to the JFK assassination will be flagged, and sources that could be still prevalent and relevant could be exposed. So that's the concern. So when Trump says, I'm releasing these are the unredacted. And the interesting point is, and the first question that Leeroy and I have, and I don't even need to ask Leeroy, is why do we have government assets and collection devices that are in the field for an American assassination on a president, unless foreign entities were involved or the United States government was involved and these asset collections were also involved? It's the first question you got to ask, right? So when you have an after-action report, and every movement in intelligence has an after-action report, and if you have a guy who's basically scrubbing message traffic, if you have a person who's collecting through some sort of software piece or the 27 different intelligence collection software apparatuses that we have for intel collection, or you're going to task a bird, or you're going to track a movement of a foreign asset, you're going to have an after-action report. And it's like a cop at the end of the day when he runs his route, he comes back and runs his beat. He puts all his reports together and does the paperwork. Similar in intel. So and then I'm going to hand it over to Leeroy here to kind of scratch the surface on this, and then we'll dive in deep. So the point is, when I hear that and they're like, well, we don't want to release unredacted, it's because there's still agents in the field and still systems that could be exposed in this. And like I said, Stephen, thank you so much. Stephen Cornett, appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the $20. It immediately sets off an alarm bell. It's like, is the U.S. government actually openly admitting that U.S. involvement and U.S. intelligence agencies somehow were connected to the John F. Kennedy investigations that have been going on for the last 60 years? And the answer is, we're going to find out. Leeroy, your thoughts on this? Interested to hear.
Yeah, so I'll be very interested to get a bluff statement on this. And for those who don't know what a bluff statement is, it's a bottom line up front. Okay, BLUFF. In other words, it's like an executive summary or the first paragraph of a paper. What is the bluff statement? What is that going to, what indication is that going to have? I'd also want to know who this report is exactly from, because to Matt's point, is it from the CIA or the FBI? If it is from the CIA, why? I'm going to be interested to know what conclusions were drawn from the report itself and who made those conclusions. And then I'm also going to be looking at what levels of certainty or uncertainty were applied to the paper. So if they can say that almost certainly, the bullet that was fired came from, said assassin's gun, I'm going to be keeping my eye open for those kinds of things. And it's a broad spectrum too, because on one hand, I can see where you're only going to get 5% more information that was already readily available, that was already prior released. And on the other end, the conspiracy end of my brain goes, oh man, they're going to release everything and we're going to find out exactly who it was. And the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
We already know who it is. So this is a great point. Cool Mad Mike says in 1992, the 1992 Act said it should be released in 2017. The funny thing is that was actually moved. It was supposed to be like May 21st. And let me give you a little bit of history. And it was supposed to be 2007. So it was moved for a decade. And it's been moved several times. And Jackie Onassis and her family had requested movement several times for things not to be released. Here's the thing. Why am I so enamored with this? Well, this is why I got into Intel. Like the John F. Kennedy assassination, Jack Ryan books, and my passion for wanting to brief the Situation Room were the three reasons I wanted to go into Intel.
That's fair.
And that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to do Jack Ryan shit. What's cool is I never did Jack Ryan shit, but I got to work in an Intel capacity with people who did, and I got to carry a weapon, and that's cool. That's close enough. Like the moment I first looked out of a plane before a jump, I was like, this is cool shit. This is great. It never, ever thought in my mind I would achieve some of the things that I wanted to do, but it stemmed from a very early age learning about the John F. Kennedy assassinations. And what happened is that my parents kind of kicked me out of the house at a very young age. I must have been 8 or 9. And they sent me to Bakersfield, California with my uncle, who's 6'7", 280, cop, homicide detective, badass. And I'm talking his mustache was about the size of my forearm. I mean, just
damn,
a big dude, banana hands, big man. And it's where I get my height. It's from the Raymond family. So I remember he came in, he was wearing a dust threaded jacket, kind of like the old brown jackets with the reinforced elbows, because they were always wearing thin from people's stupidity, even back then. And we were sitting, and it was aglow with fluorescent tube lighting, in this kitchen that looked like something out of E.T., the movie when they're all sitting around, that type of house. And it's just got that feel where it had the orange carpet and shit, stuff like that. It was definitely, 80s. I remember him walking in, and about 2 weeks prior, we had watched a movie called Red Dawn at home, and it was on VHS, right? So I loved it. Wolverines,
Yes.
Yeah. Badass, dude. See Thomas Howell, with an AK.
Powers Booth getting shot down. Oh, yeah.
Dude, and his
So good.
Dude, so good. I got
peeing in the radiator.
Peeing in the radiator.
Yeah.
AK-47 versus Heinz Chopper, Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I was excited. So my aunt and I are at the local grocery store, and back then the VHS tapes were in the grocery stores. And I go to my aunt and I go, "There's a really good movie." And she goes, "Well, what do you want to watch?" And I said, "The movie Red Dawn." And she's like, "Oh, it's a war movie." And I said, "Uncle Randy will love it." And she goes, "Mm-hmm." And she gets it, but she knew, my uncle is a lot like I am. He's very just kind of gruff, but a lovable guy. Anyway, so he walks in and he takes his 38 and he has a skeleton holster. And he takes out the middle of his back and he throws it in the drawer, reaches down to his ankle, takes off his ACP that he has on his ankle, throws that in the drawer, takes off his handcuffs, takes off a baton, takes off something else, a notepad. And he basically is just dumping, and then 47 keys on a ring. And, you know, and I'm just like, you know, this guy must have been carrying 20 pounds worth of shit.
Right.
And he does what and this is him. What are we doing tonight? Aunt Sherry said we were going to watch a movie, Uncle. Is that right? What movie are we watching? Red Dawn.
Red Dawn. Sherry said that one.
Right. Grabs this. What's this shit? Looks at it. Puts his glasses on and looks at it and goes. And I said, it's a really good movie. We watched it last week, and he's not even looking at me. And it's really fun. It's full of action. It's a war movie, and you can watch it first if you want to. And he goes, really? Thanks for your fucking permission. Looks back at the VHS tape. And I'll tell you, my uncle scared the living shit out of me when I was a young kid. But later in life, I realized that was just his sense of humor. And he was mocking me. Yeah. But he was also kind of building me for life. And his job was to grow me up a little bit. That's why they sent me up there. And tough love. And it was a great summer.
Yeah.
And he was a very cool guy. But his love, let me get to finish my point. Yeah. His love for Kennedy is that I would go through his office and walk in there and I wouldn't touch anything, but he would have books scattered all over the place and videos on John F. Kennedy. And I knew at a young age that if I asked him about it, I would learn. And we had a very long conversation at the old April Lane Bakersfield house. I think it was April Street. And we sat out front in these metal, and they would have the vinyl straps and you have to replace them every summer. Yeah. And we were sitting in those things, and your ass would literally have checker marks on it. And we talked about the John F. Kennedy assassination, and I didn't say a word. And I just listened to him talk. And I fell in love with it. So since then, I have absolutely had just an affinity and passion for the John F. Kennedy assassination. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, I've known quite a few people who have gone into the intel field after I did. And it was one of the first things that I did after you get in and you're granted that level of clearance. You're like, oh my God, you're allowed to look at these databases that I didn't know where the hell they went. Right. But you're given this privileged position and you're allowed, you know, some access to this information. It's one of the first things you do as an intel guy. You're like, who killed JFK on Jay Wixon?
Where are the aliens? Where are the aliens?
And right, it's that kind of thing. And you know, ultimately, there's nothing in there. It's all compartmentalized so far that when you go to look that up, you know, the military has their own version of like a Wikipedia. And so you go to some place like, you know, I don't want to say the name of the site, but you go to the said site and it'll just give you the exact same information that is pulled directly off of Wikipedia. And you're like, well, this isn't anything I didn't already know. What the, right? They don't trust me with this. No, they don't. Somebody has a file of this buried somewhere, hard copy in a file cabinet that is 10 floors beneath the surface of the earth. And at some point, maybe it'll get out. Hopefully that's what this is.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And the reason why nobody knows is because this was a silent agreement. There were multiple countries that benefited from Kennedy's assassination. Multiple. Including Russia, Cuba, a lot of Middle Europe, the Jews. Israel had benefit for Kennedy to die a lot. And that's where a lot of these conspiracies come from, that the Jews did it, which Jews did everything, right? I mean, they killed Caesar, you know, Jews took Maury Povich off the air, you know, Jews have done it all. They're just, you know,
oh my God.
the Barry Manilow unreleased golden tracks. The Jews have those somewhere.
It's their fault. Sure.
It's their fault. Their fault.
Sure.
It's just the way it is.
Miss
But
Piggy cheating on Kermit, Jews' fault. I get it.
100%. Yeah. Yep. It's all these things. COVID, Jews. It's always the Jews.
Given.
But there was a lot who benefited, but nobody benefited more than the United States. And Kennedy made a lot of enemies. And Kennedy wanted to change things. And he was a liberal. And there really aren't any more of those left. But his ideas were just as extreme as AOC's back then. They were. And now it's been diluted. And it's not as point as it once was. But trust me, civil rights was a very contentious issue. Opening up a large demographic of people to, from a financial standpoint with Social Security, with overall representation, was a lot of money. Not getting into Indochina and fighting communism was not what the United States government wanted to hear. McCarthyism was running rampant inside the country. People like Ronald Reagan, people like LBJ, people like Alan Dulles, McCormick were all very staunch McCarthy types. And they believed that the Soviet Union was the largest threat and it had to be eradicated. And Kennedy didn't believe that. Kennedy didn't want to go into Vietnam, didn't want to go to Indochina, was soft on Cuba, failed at the Bay of Pigs, had plenty of time to whack Castro. And although the CIA tried, they failed immensely. A lot of things happened that Kennedy became a target, but nothing more important than the forever wars that the CIA wanted to cast the world in. So instead of depleting countries, which is a very optic way by financial means and economic means, have them fight wars and supply the world with the weapons through proxy. And the CIA has been doing this for a long time. And the reason how we know this is the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, Wild Bill Donovan created, which is now the modern day CIA,
right,
was a World War II.
1947, that split happened, right?
I think that was. And you saw a very large split, but something else happened. The Army Air Corps used to have, and the Army used to have its own planes. And the Army Air Corps split from the Army, and they were only allowed to have fixed-wing aircraft, rotary aircraft. And this is why you see the Army with Hueys galore, Cobras, Apaches, and everything else. And they dominate the rotary aircraft space and then have some Harriers. And the reason why they can have Harriers is because it's a vertical takeoff. It's a VTOL. And because it's a vertical takeoff, it allows them to go ahead and scoot underneath. But the whole processes was Air Force has all of the air power. Well, then the aircraft carrier came.
Big jets and the big bombers and the fighters and everything else. And the Army is left with, close air support type platforms, Apaches and so forth.
QRF, QRT, fast spin up type rotary aircraft. Then the Navy, which had always had an air division, but they were specific to the sea. So completely a different thing. But there was a very jealous type relationship between the Air Force and Army Air Corps, and Army always wanted its air division back. Vietnam changed the face of the Army. And if you want to take a look at the top 15 contractors in Vietnam, and when I say billions, it was hundreds of billions of dollars. And back then, that was an incredible amount of money that Vietnam made the United States. And as we know, World War II put the United States on the map from an economic superpower. We had the manufacturing, we did the plastics, we were able to do the aluminum, we were able to do engines, we were able to change our vehicle factories which a lot of places didn't have because they had fantastic transportation in Europe and other countries. So we had to have autonomous travel, which is why America still to this day has more cars than any other country per capita. It's a ridiculous number. It's like 36 out of 100. Most countries are 1 per like 50 people. So the United States had the ability to build tanks and planes and weaponry. And Vietnam did the same thing for us from an infrastructure standpoint of moving to the next phase of generational warfare. This was a lot of money. General Dynamics, Northrop, Grumman, Skunk Works. There are Lockheed and Martin, Fairchild. And you can go on and on and on and on and on of the amount of weapon systems. And this made the United States an ungodly amount of money. And this also put us on the map. Leeroy, I'm going to pause there.
You covered a lot, man. You cover a lot of space when you, so there's a lot going on. What I'll be most curious to see is when this report gets released, if there is any sort of confirmation of who killed JFK, then will that, the question in my mind as an analyst is, will that give also a confirmation of motive, right? Because different killers, different people are going to want to have done that for different reasons. And I think that will be a very interesting question to ask. Something else that you would, right? Who did it? If you can figure out who did it, then that will be the indication as far as why.
No, you figure out the why first.
No.
Yes.
No.
Figure out the.
I don't think. I think you're going to find out. The only people that are going to know why are the killers themselves, and you have to be able to identify that.
We know why. Let's have this conversation.
I'm all ears. I'm all ears. But something else that you said, and I wanted to touch on it real quick.
You go first. Yes.
Was that when you were talking about the post-World War II, the rise of the power of the United States, there's one of the geopolitical analysts that I follow, and his name's George Friedman. He is a Hungarian immigrant. He's written a handful of books. He's a brilliant man. He's a doctor, I think. And I was watching one of his lectures where he gives, and this is something that he routinely does. He will look at a country and break down their entire structure on three big criteria: land, labor, and capital, because that's how you get an economy. And he will, by ratio, give scores to each of the, excuse me.
I do that all the time.
Each of those categories. So land, you'll get, X number of acres, and he'll give that a score, like a Doug score of speak. Labor, like how many people do we have? And then he'll divide that out, and you get an idea of how many people can exist within a country comfortably. And then finally capital, like what are the natural resources? And it's amazing. When he did that, the United States is clearly separate from the rest of the world by a factor of 10.
Oh, in every facet. Okay.
Yeah.
So I do that too, dude. Like I'm sitting there and I'm breathing. I'm like, and I take a breath and I'm like, duh. Okay. So Terry says, I kind of agree with Leeroy. That's okay. I agree with Leeroy. But you can't do the who, because the who is the most complex part of this equation. You can't.
I don't think it'll come out, honestly.
It's not that about coming out. It's that you can't figure out the who, because the problem is that it is a multifaceted problem without a singular solution. There were multiple parties involved. Okay, so let's go down the rabbit hole. Let's go ahead and say that it was the mob. It's the mafia.
Right.
Okay. So let's go ahead and disprove that it was the mafia. How do we disprove that it's the mafia?
With any sort of confidence level, I don't think that you can to a certainty, right?
You can.
How?
You go down to the capability of the hit. Did the mob have the ability to pull off the assassination? Simple question. Based upon what you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you why they don't. and I'm not going to spoil because there's so many different things that could, like, I say one thing and you're going to immediately go, okay, I know who it is. So I've got to really try to like slow roll this just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Ruby. What was Jack Ruby's previous job? You know, that's the one who shot. That's the one who shot Oswald. He shot Oswald. Supposedly shot Oswald. Jack Ruby was a cop, and Jack Ruby had mob ties. So people believe that Jack Ruby, because he took Oswald out, there's a lot of mob. Now, Bobby Kennedy, while he was an up-and-coming attorney, also wanted to go after the mob. But the mob helped in Democratic strongholds and the unions to truly shift the election towards Kennedy. So the mob felt that Kennedy owed. So when Bobby came in and started leaning the federal government and the FIB on the mafia, this created enemies. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Could they have pulled this off? So let me just ask the question. The motorcade for the president at no time was supposed to go up Elm. An Archduke was in Dallas about 2 weeks before Kennedy, and somebody had thrown rotten fruit and hit him in the exact same spot. Secret Service knew this. Secret Service moved the motorcade up Elm anyway and put it in a very precarious position by making that left from Maine to Elm, which had them slow down to a 2 to 3 mile an hour speed, almost stopping and then starting again up Elm.
Yeah.
The bubble top was removed. Which is in a hostile city like Dallas, which was very hostile. Wasn't Democrat like it is now in that sense. They were very hostile to Kennedy. They didn't like Kennedy. You have to ask yourself the question, would the assassination have been possible if those things were in place? They didn't go up Elm. They went up Maine. Secret Service was stationed around the perimeter, which Kennedy didn't want. And then they did not have the chauffeur, Secret Service agent, his name will reveal in a second, talk about him, hit the brakes when the first gunshot happened. I want you to think about this. What's the first rule of intelligence? And there is no official first rule. But in your estimation, being
there's a cycle.
Right, but being an intelligence professional, what's the first rule of intelligence?
So there's 5 steps.
Give me the first. Just give me one. Just give me the most important one.
Well, hold on.
No,
and so
I don't want 5.
I'm not going to give you 5.
Give me one.
Let me. Yeah.
Yeah, if you say it.
The very first one is called planning and direction. It is the most important step.
Okay. Would you ever skip that step?
No.
Why?
No, you need that. That is what lays the foundation for all sorts of for the rest of any operation, right?
Fair.
And so whenever you're going to execute an operation, you have to know travel patterns. You have to have estimates of where people are going to be, how many people are going to be there.
Yep.
Weather patterns, everything. You're going to want to know every piece of the puzzle prior to the execution of the plan.
Is there any point that the reason why I don't want you to go in deeper is because I don't want to lose anybody. It has nothing to do with you. There's times I need you to be just direct. This is one of those times because you helped me solidify this point. Was there any other time that you would not follow that processes when you're working in an intelligence capacity?
Never.
Okay. What would a Secret Service driver never do in a situation when he hears a gunshot? What would he never do? What's his job to do? What's his number one rule?
Keep the
You hear a
president
gunshot.
safe.
Get the fucking president safe. So what do you not do in a car?
You hit the brake, right?
You don't hit the brake. First thing he did was hit the brake. So now we got a situation of, would the shooting have taken place by the mob if all these factors didn't take place? Because what you had was very similar to the Trump assassination attempt. You had a failure when it comes to operational security. The top 6 reasons for operational security, 5 of them were a failure. On Kennedy's assassination, there were so many different operational failures. But the thing is that the mob doesn't have the capability to pull off of a hit like this. The mob would do up close and personal hits, shotgun or 38. They're not using a Marlikin Carcano sighted rifle. They're not using perch positions. They're not using sniper positions. They don't have a back blind. They sat recessed in the Texas Book Depository. This was an assassination. But there were so many critical failures. Windows not open. Our windows were open. People on Dealey Plaza opening up umbrellas. People standing. People in trees. Things you would never see. Secret Service. So what I want to do is I want to work back, and a lot of people want to go ahead and build up and Bay of Pigs and Cuba and the Ku Klux Klan. No, I just want to go to the shooting. And say, right. Who had the ability to alter and drop the ball to that level? Because there had been multiple assassination attempts on presidents before that and after that, and the Secret Service had done an incredible, incredible job. But Eisenhower had assassination attempts. FDR had assassination attempts. The Secret Service was shit hot. So, but most importantly, the mob didn't have the scale for something like this. They didn't have the inside information to set up something like this.
I'm following.
Because
I get it.
Because a lot of the things that took place, Leeroy, were changed at the last minute. And there were only certain people who had that information. Evelyn, stop spoiling. So the mob, the Klan, people say, no. Lee Harvey Oswald had absolutely no tie to the Klan. Had no tie to the Klan. CIA wasn't running the Klan. The Klan was a backwoods, unorganized clusterfuck. So was it Cuba? So here's some interesting things. Can I just throw some stuff out at you, bud? And then I want you to filter. Okay. So Lee Harvey Oswald. Let's talk about Lee Harvey Oswald. Can we do that?
Yeah.
No, Thomas. Not all of those things were procedure before the John F. Kennedy assassination. This isn't the first time they've exposed a president. LBJ was there. We had multiple candidates in that area before Kennedy. I mean, hell, everyone's stumped there. Eisenhower stumped there. So it's not like we hadn't had a president. And Kennedy had been to Dallas before. And the reaction to Kennedy in Dallas was hostile. So these procedures had been in place for a long period of time. You have to remember, our nation was at war, a world war before that. How many times do you think Germans tried to hit FDR? How many times do you think that they tried to kill FDR? I mean, come on. Secret Service was shit hot back then. Yes, I've been to the Root. I've been to Dealey Plaza. I've been to the Texas Book Depository. I've been to the theater. I've been to Lee Harvey Oswald's house. I can't remember the general's name right now. I've been to his house that he shot at. See, there's things that people don't know about Oswald. Oswald took a shot at a high-ranking general in Dallas just a few days before. They know this. The round was an exact match for the Marlikin Carcano that he used. Okay. Oswald had left a paper trail. Oswald had left notes, but a lot of this stuff gets pushed out. But let's talk about Oswald real quick. Let's talk about him. So What was his job in the Marine Corps? Do you remember?
I don't know what his job was.
Radio
infantry.
No, he's radio.
Oh,
well, all
really?
Marines are infantry, you know that. But radio operator. Okay. Have you heard of the term Maggie's drawers?
No.
It's when you're really bad at shooting. Oswald was not an expert marksman. Now, he had to qualify, but he wasn't very good. He wasn't an excellent Marine, but went through the training. Now, one of the things about Lee Harvey Oswald that we don't know is where did he learn Russian? He spoke fluent Russian. Where did he learn it? Well, we know he didn't learn it in school. No idea. What if I said Monterey, California?
Oh, that wouldn't shock me.
Why would a radio operator need Russian linguistics in Monterey?
Well, because he was probably training to intercept radio traffic, maybe in Germany or someplace like that.
Wouldn't crypto do that?
They absolutely could.
But why would you need a radio operator to do that?
But there's also unencrypted communications as well.
Yeah, but wouldn't listening to comms traffic from a foreign enemy be a classification issue? I mean, wouldn't that be segmented into classification? Wouldn't that only be a crypto's responsibility? Why would you have a standard radio operator without a clearance do that?
Well, most radio operators actually do have a clearance. In some cases, it's at least a secret. But I would also say that every branch of the service has their own flavor of either radio operators or CTs, or in some cases both. Air Force does it. Navy certainly does it.
So he would have had
I know that the Army did it.
Yeah, so he would have to have an active clearance, at least of secret or better, but probably TS if he's intercepting Russian comms and disseminating Russian comms. He has a TS, right?
I would think, yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald didn't have an active SSBI or clearance. Yet he went through linguistics in Russian, in Monterey. Now, I can say that to you real slow, but I don't need to. But I probably need to say it real slow to the people listening because they don't understand what that means. Tell them what Monterey, California is.
Actually, I'm not unfamiliar with Monterey. You know more about it than I do.
Pretty much, if there's any type of linguistics training that's needed, whether it's Arabic with Farsi, Korean, Chinese, from an intel capacity, Monterey, California is where you go to learn linguistics. It's where you go to learn a language. Yeah. And it is predominantly in a level of some sort of intel, whether it's crypto, standard military intelligence, army intelligence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's Spookville. You want to go create spooks, it's where you put... CIA, after your farm stints, they send people to Monterey. Fort Meade sends people to Monterey. Nimitzi sends people to Monterey.
To pick up a language, sure.
I've been to Monterey. So Monterey is a very hush-hush when you need to learn a foreign language or you're going to assimilate into a foreign country. Monterey is where you go. So Lee Harvey Oswald went there.
That is super interesting.
He learned full Russian. He learned how to read and write Russian. So the first thing you have to ask is why? So leave that there. Yes, his wife is Russian, but he didn't meet her later until Russia. Because here's the next piece. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
During the pre-Cold War, 1960s, Bay of Pigs, Khrushchev, Cuban Missile Crisis, Minuteman missiles in Turkey, FBI, CIA, the Spetsnaz, the Politburo, the KGB, on the precipice of a secret war where 10,000 intelligence agents died and government officials had a secret war when Reagan came in. You have an Marine who says, I'm going to defect to Russia. And I'm going to tell them everything I know, state secrets. And tell them everything I know about radio signals, tell us about our equipment, our overall infrastructure, our collection from a signals intelligence standpoint. And I'm going to reveal everything. And I'm going to defect. What are the probability of that taking place? As an intelligence professional, that the government, especially during that time, would not throw a black bag over your head, and throw you somewhere in the recesses of Chateau d'If or something else. What's the probability?
I mean, if the government caught wind of that way back when, you were going to be thrown into a hole that had no bottom.
That's right. They let him go. Lee Harvey Oswald goes to Russia. Lee Harvey Oswald works in various different jobs, but gets a job in a textile plant. Gets set up in a predominantly white, fairly rich neighborhood in Russia. He is assigned a handler and a KGB officer. He goes through about 9 months of debriefing Russia and Russian assets on American technology. Meets Marina Oswald. They start dating. They have a child. And he basically spends, I don't know, I think 3 years is what he spent, maybe a little bit less, in Russia. Drinks heavily. Several reports of him.
That's what you do in Russia.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of drinking.
You go to Russia, you drink, and you get tuberculosis. That's the rules. I didn't make it. I make the rules. I'm just saying that's how it goes.
Struggles with alcoholism, gets her pregnant, has a baby. Now, Leeroy, listen to what I'm trying to tell you here. None of this is made up. Show you every single file for this. But Lee Harvey Oswald decides, I'm coming home. Russia not only allows him, and he has a very low-level position within the State Department of Russia. A lot of people think it's a cover, that he's basically a little Kigber, just a very low-level asset that they're using and then are going to spit out. Lee Harvey Oswald says, I'm leaving Russia and I'm going back to the United States. Now, that's not unheard of. But in no way, shape, or form would the Russian government ever allow a man with his wife and child to go to the United States because they know he's never coming back. So it was often allowed for Russian citizens to leave, but the family remained behind. Not only did Russia allow Lee Harvey Oswald to come back with Marina and their child, when he arrived in the United States, he was not debriefed. He was not, there was no intake officer. There was no one from the State Department. And by all accounts, if you went to Russia, said you were going to defect to the United States, they may let you go. But if you're going to come back into the United States after committing treason, what would happen to you?
After committing treason?
Because that's what he did, right?
Yeah. I mean, essentially. Yeah. What would the United States do? Yeah. You'd be, again, thrown into another deep hole.
You'd be summarily charged with treason. Your family would be taken to an undisclosed location. You would disappear off the face of the fucking earth.
Mm-hmm.
And you would suffer some of the most horrendous torment that you could ever possibly imagine. Because not only are they going to pay you back for leaving the United States and being a traitor, but they are going to milk every ounce of whatever you know about Russia. The one thing is, during that time that he was gone, a U-2 spy plane was shot down. Never before in U.S. history has a U-2 ever been reached. There's rumors that the surface to air. I think it was SA-7 or a Hong S. I don't know.
SA-2, I thought.
SA-2. SA-2. Thank you.
Guideline.
SA-2.
Yeah.
Yes. SA-2. A lot of the code frequencies and the radio frequencies was the only way that they could pick up that U-2. They couldn't do heat signature. They didn't have any radar capabilities, but they did have radio frequencies for communications that possibly could have been used. What?
Quick side note.
Yeah.
I was taking a tour over at NASIC, and there was a book signing going on there, and hadn't planned for it, had no knowledge of the event. Turns out the book signing was because Francis Gary Powers' son had written a book and was there, and I was there in uniform.
Tell him who he is.
So he picks me out of a crowd, and I got my picture taken with Francis Gary Powers.
Tell them who Francis Gary Powers Jr.
Francis
son
Gary
is.
Powers. So Francis Gary Powers is the U-2 pilot who was shot down over Russia.
Right.
And that's basically when the United States and Russia were, Russia knew what the hell was happening, and the United States was basically lying not only to Russia, but to the public, saying, oh, that thing they shot down, yeah, it was just a weather balloon, right? And so when the next move from Russia's part is to put this to put the surviving pilot on trial and then air it to the world, then, everyone in the United States was like, what the, right?
Right.
So that was a very big deal. And so Francis Gary Powers Jr. wrote a book about his dad, and I got to meet him, and yeah, it was good.
So first of all, it's amazing. Second of all, the Cold War lays within that incident. May 1st, 1960. This stopped conversation and brought United States and Russian relations to a standstill. It was a very tumultuous time. This kind of moved the Bay of Pigs forward at an ungodly clip. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev putting spy planes and reconnaissance aircraft in Cuba, bringing nuclear missiles into and gassing and fueling missiles in Cuba. This entire process truly put Russia and the United States on path to war.
Yeah.
They had never even remotely scratched a U-2 spy plane. She's a reconnaissance bird. And although the missile systems that they had certainly could reach those elevations, their radar systems were not that effective. Now, if you locked on target, one of the first things that you saw, especially with the SR-71 and other planes that flew at lower altitudes with the U-2, and Leeroy will back me up on this, is that they would get radar lock, but then when those independent missile systems also had radar acquisition, they would try to push their ceiling. And the first thing they would do is they don't roll left or right, because that's not the way those planes work. They go vertical.
No.
Yeah, they go, wait, no to me or no to, they don't roll left and right.
No, they don't
Right.
go roll left or right.
Right. So they go vertical and they push their ceiling, they push their envelope. And the problem is that once one of those SAs has your signature, even if you go dark, it's a smart enough system even back then to acquire and hunt and kill. But like I said, infrared technology, satellite technology, low-level radar, a lot of that wasn't effective against the U-2. And a lot of people believe that with Lee Harvey Oswald going there, that they allowed, they as being the State Department, the United States government, used Oswald to give them the secrets and the radio signal to the U-2 so it could be shot down and essentially lead us to a path of conflict. Now, why? This goes back all the way to World War II. And MacArthur and Patton, when the Japanese surrendered, Russia immediately started making a push into Indochina. And Russia secured and influenced and wanted to take northern parts of Japan. And they did. And we knew that Russia was going to kind of stab us in the back, and we knew it was coming. We knew that would be the next world conflict, would be Russia. And MacArthur and Patton wanted to leave Tokyo, even though we weren't in Tokyo, but essentially turn tail to the emperor. Germany had already surrendered. This was already Hitler in the bunker, and wanted to turn north and hit Russia and march to Moscow. The United States was horribly against this. The United States had already had too much war.
Right.
We know where FDR stood. We know that we were tired, and it was just a matter of no. But communism, go ahead.
The prior to World War II, I want to say that I think the numbers were something like 70% of the United States was against the idea of interference in World War II. And it wasn't until Pearl Harbor where all of a sudden the president had the backing of the people. But to Matt's point, immediately thereafter, we were like, we are done. Because that was a rough period in U.S. history.
Horrible. We had stopped living, and we were literally just producing. Like, it was I wasn't there, but you can read every book. My point is that Russia was so depleted that essentially the United States, instead of having NATO, could have taken Russia and protected Eastern Europe. And instead of doing that, we did NATO and expanded NATO and started taking military bases all over the world, which was a threat. You get froggy, we got a base 10 minutes from you. Now, aircraft carriers have made that obsolete, but back then, being in Germany, being in Poland, being in Japan, being in South Korea, being in Australia, being in Diego Garcia, being in the Mediterranean, being in Bahrain, these areas were strategic to U.S. interest. And why do I bring up all that? Because at some point, Russia started moving faster than the United States thought they could. Their industry turned. Their missile technology from the Germans that they took that we didn't get, were able to make rockets. And thank you so much, Frank. You saw the space race. The Russian technology was so successful with its intel apparatus and the KGB and the Politburo, and using special forces like Spetsnaz to infiltrate, and the Russian oligarchs could come over to the United States and steal technology. Russians were winning the intelligence game. And this was a fucking no-no. Like,
they still talk about that during Intel school, how ahead, or how the intelligence apparatus within the United States, why it got so big so fast. And it was basically an injection of money, because at the time of the great competition between the United States and Russia, Russia was winning. They were winning on that front, hands down.
And not only winning from that, but from a manufacturing standpoint, where they lacked speed, their equipment was state of the art. They had taken the Russian Messerschmitts and the engine quality of the Messerschmitts and put this into their aircraft. Their rocket technology was advanced. Their MiGs that they were putting out with support from China were creating high-end weaponry that rivaled U.S. weaponry.
Yeah.
But their bombers were state-of-the-art. The B-52 is considered to be one of the greatest bombers in the world, but the Bears are equivalent to size, capacity, and everything else. And although prop-driven,
were cheaper.
They were cheaper and easier to make, and they're easier to defend. A B-52 was susceptible because of its overall profile signature and its exhaust was targetable, where bears were not necessarily targetable by seaboard aircraft. A lot of our interceptors did not have the capability to anticipate bears. And this is where you saw NORAD's mission and the construction of NORAD to start tracking intercontinental flight traffic. SAC NORAD was created to not only intercept ICBMs, but from a radar perspective and intercontinental ballistic missiles, but also to track and monitor Russian bombers and aircraft.
Right. Right.
So why am I saying all this? Because this is billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. And Russia is a threat. But there was a lot of people in Washington who did not find Russia to be a threat. There were people, just like today, there was politics. And as the oligarchs wanted to come in and take over Hollywood, and we saw the 1940s and 50s and 60s with a lot of Russian sentiment coming into the United States, and then a 20-year gap between that, we saw Ronald Reagan fight communism. The United States had people who wanted to destroy Russia because they recognized them as a very large threat and felt that they were the next Germany. Lee Harvey Oswald went over there, had a state contact, had a KGB officer working with him. The United States government allowed him to come back, was unmolested. Russia allowed his wife and child to come here. And then he went and he came down and he worked in a place where you never would expect it. So, Leeroy, when you're done with that, let me tell you something.
I just sent you a photo of Francis Gary Powers Jr. and I.
Oh, sweet! I want to put it on real quick.
Yeah.
So the next thing I'm going to tell you, is going to kind of fucking blow your mind. So, did you send it to the dumb chat? Oh no, there it is.
No, I sent it to your text.
Can I put this on, dude? You're in uniform. You sure?
Just
I got you. I got you.
Block out the name. Yeah.
Hold on.
Or just don't show the whole thing. Yeah. It is cool. Go ahead. Screw it. Nobody cares.
No. We're not fucking doing that, dude. I will show so people know it's you. There we go. All right. See? I've got techniques, bud. I got skill. There it is.
Oh, there you go.
How good is that, right? That's a pretty good chop shop, dude. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Bring up your shoulder a little bit. There it is. There it is.
Cut off
and
my
you can't
command
see
career counselor badge. Yeah.
He looks like Clancy.
That was a newly minted IS-1 there.
I can see that. You're very sharp, dude. Very squared away. He looks like Clancy Brown a little bit from Highlander.
A little bit.
There could be only one. Older now. All right. So Oswald comes in. What does he decide to do? With his radio operator experience, with his Russian, with his former military degree, he decides to do what? He decides to go work in New Orleans, in downtown Louisiana.
Oh, I didn't know that. What did he do?
And, well, I'll tell you. He started working for the Free Cubans for Castro movement, which was the Castro Communist Socialist initiative to bring American sentiment to Castro, and claimed that he was a Marxist-Leninist. And he decided to do all of this where? Downtown New Orleans, in the Market District.
No way.
And the interesting thing is, would you like to know what building he was in? So the building that he was in was on a corner, and it shared an office with somebody, a gentleman named Guy Bannister. Does that name sound familiar to you?
No.
Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Guy Bannister was FBI, retired FBI.
Oh.
And he became a private dick and did private investigation work out of that office. Do you know who was on the other side of that office? Same address, different streets. Lee Harvey fucking Oswald.
No.
The Free Cuba for Castro movement was literally right next to Guy Bannister. Also, within a block was the ONI. Leeroy, can you tell him who the ONI is?
ONI is the Office of Naval Intelligence.
CIA.
What, they had an office
Yes.
there?
Yes, downtown Louisiana. CIA had a building there. Tell them who the CIA is, just in case they're not listening.
The Central Intelligence Agency.
The U.S. Marshals, the FBI.
That's a whole lot of three letters to be co-located like that.
We're not done. U.S. Treasury and Secret Service, all within a stone's throw. It was the intelligence apparatus for essentially the southern part of the United States. It was the Washington, D.C. extension. It was the intelligence network for the entire South. Lee Harvey Oswald was working right there next to Guy Bannister. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm going to tell you is fact, incontrovertible fact. So now you've got a pro-Castro communist, Marxist-Leninist, who gets into an altercation on the street with an anti-Castro Cuban living in New Orleans. And what happens after that? Well, they decide to go on local TV, Leeroy, and debate.
Really?
Yes, and debate. Lee Harvey Oswald does a debate with the anti-Castro where he comes out as a Marxist-Leninist. The Cuban says, "You're a communist." And he goes, "No, sir, I'm not a communist. I'm a Marxist-Leninist." And the man says, "Well, what's the difference?"
Right.
This altercation had Lee Harvey Oswald in a very prominent part of the intelligence community handing out pro-Castro leaflets. And when people talk about it, there was no police report filed. There was an open fight. They were both arrested. And a lot of people felt that it was a staged event to expose Lee Harvey Oswald and to get his name out there. He was on fucking local TV, bro.
That is crazy.
I'm not even done. Wait, you think that's even remote? That doesn't even scratch the fucking surface of how this is not the mob. It doesn't even scratch the surface that it's not even Russia. This is all fucking CIA top to bottom. Because nobody had the power to do what they did. Oswald shouldn't even be on the fucking street. He should be in a black bag getting sodium pentothal and a noose ready to go around his neck.
Well, and so that begs the question then, I mean, was it CIA sanctioned, or was this just simply a bad actor from within the agencies who had some level of access and was like disgruntled in some way and decided to go lone wolf?
No.
You know?
It's too big. I'll tell you what, that's interesting. Hold on.
That is crazy.
I had someone reach out to me and told me to stop.
Stop.
No, like stop. Like fucking shut up. Okay. So here you go. Let me finish this. So who ran the CIA? I'm going to get to that. I'm not even there yet. So the two addresses, I had to look them up also. Guy Bannister was on 531 Lafayette Street, Alpha. And 544 Camp Street was the exact same building, but an opposite street, like this.
Yeah.
And he was Bravo. They had connecting doors. They shared two offices that were connected by a single door. Guy Bannister, ex-FBI, private investigator. Now, Guy Bannister had relationships. One of his closest friends and confidants, who was always in his office drinking and spending time, multiple eyewitness reports. And this is based off the investigation of Jim Garrison's investigation, New Orleans versus the United States of America.
Right.
And Clay Bertrand and Clay Shaw. Who was Guy Bannister's best friend? Take a fucking guess. It started the entire
Lee
conversation.
Harvey Oswald.
No. Okay. Besides Lee Harvey, we said somebody else before that.
Oh, yeah, you did. There was a third party.
Jack.
What was it?
Fucking Ruby?
No.
Ruby and Guy Bannister were best friends. And a lot of people believe that Ruby was an informant and a strong arm for the mob when he was a cop. And that Guy Bannister ran him, but they were friends. So Jack Ruby and Bannister are buddy. So now you've got Lee Harvey Oswald in office. You got Jack fucking Ruby hanging out with Guy Bannister, who shares an office with Lee Harvey Oswald in the intelligence corridor, who was an ex-American spy based on his training, who became a double agent for Russia, who then came back to the United States as a Russian asset, or was he truly always an American asset who was now doing a job in Louisiana? We're not done. I have put, and I got a full fucking window right here. That's a. So
that
now
opens up a lot of questions, because the analyst end of my head goes, all right, Lee Harvey Oswald, this known Marxist-Leninist who had gone so far as to go on TV and have a debate about apparently the efficacies of Marxism, who had come from Russia at one point. You have to imagine that at some point he had some level of Russian backing. He had some level of exposure into the higher ups of Russia. All right, now here's the thing. A lot of people know this, maybe some don't. A lot of people do, is that Russia is also in some way, they have their own mob. They have a lot of the oligarchs who, right. Yep. They run a lot of the mob. So there is a heavy stench in the air of Russian mob as well. So when someone says, oh, it was the mob, sure. Which one? Italian, Russian, who knows? Wasn't, Jimmy Hoffa.
So,
or Frank Sinatra for that matter.
White Russian oligarchs is a whole other story. In fact, if you want to go back to Montgomery Clift and John Wayne and Ronald Reagan, they are the ones that went into the Screen Actors Guild and fought pro-Russian oligarchs who were putting Russian propaganda into film. This is why Reagan became president, is because he was so anti-communist, and they knew what they knew. So, guys, this isn't a fucking rabbit hole. This is history. These are facts. Now, hold on. Just in case anyone's like, Matt's full of shit. Fuck this guy. He's just looking for clicks. Okay, here you go.
Everyone was so skinny back then. Hostess had been
WDSU Channel 6.
Guide for the Marines.
There's the International Trade Mart. I'll tell you about the International Trade Mart in a second. Here he is handing out pro-Castro paraphernalia. There he is right there.
That guy open carrying?
No, sir, I'm not a communist, and I think that the red herring and so forth is rather ridiculous to toss into this conversation.
Then are you a Marxist?
Well, I have studied Marxist philosophy, yes, sir, and also other philosophers.
But are you a Marxist? I think you did admit on an earlier radio interview that you consider yourself a Marxist.
Well, I would very definitely say that I am a Marxist. That is correct. But that does not mean, however, that I'm a communist.
What is the difference between the two?
Well, there's a great deal of difference.
No, there's not.
Several American parties in several countries are based on Marxism, such as Ghana. Certain countries have characteristics of a socialist system, such as Great Britain with its socialized medicine. These then are the differences between an outright communist country and countries which adhere to leftist or Marxist principles.
So this interview preceded the debate.
That's word salad is what that is. That's a guy who doesn't exactly.
Lee Harvey Oswald, listen, you know he's a spook because he knows just enough to be fucking scary. And he talks too much in his fucking cover. The thing is that preceded the debate that took place. And this conflict, this fight that took place, nobody was arrested, but the police came, put them both in handcuffs. It was a very big scuffle. But there was a processes taking place here that was building a story around Lee Harvey Oswald that was so roughshod, which was so blatant, because if he was deep cover Russia, this is not how you do deep cover Russia. I'm going to hand out pamphlets that are pro-Castro. And if he was deep cover U.S., then this is exactly what you do to go ahead and gain credibility in the network of the Free Castro movement. Now, not done. Louisiana Trade Mart. Now, guys, girls, listen to me. This is one topic. I've got 10,000 different strings that we can pull. This is just the connection of why this wasn't the mob, why it couldn't possibly be the KKK, why it wasn't Russia alone, why it wasn't Cuba, why it wasn't the Jews. Now, I've been studying this fucking thing my whole life, and I will tell you, the Jews connection, you guys are stretching and reaching real hard, okay? Because the Jews of those days is not the Jews of today. And if you want to compare a country to Israel of where it was in 1960 with Kennedy, it was like Iraq after we bombed them. So Israel wasn't this prominent. This was 20 years, 12, 15 years after, 20 years after the Holocaust. Okay. So they were in constant battle in Palestine and Gaza. This is not the Israel you know today. So to think that the United States was so afraid, they had this giant Mossad intelligence agency that was so effective.
Different day and age.
Different day and age. Okay. Now you want to talk about Munich? That's when Mossad hit the map. When Munich took place, that's when Mossad was like, because by that time they had CIA training, they had OSS. Okay. So in the Trade Mart, there was a very, very powerful man locally known as Clay Bertrand. And he was a mercantile and textile importer and exporter globally. And he would use the Trade Mart to bring and import and export goods from overseas and ship them out of the United States and essentially control the entire southern part of the United States from shipping and receiving foreign goods. Leeroy, who the fuck is going to grab that guy? Who's it going to be? Out of all the intelligence agencies, what intelligence agency would need to ensure that you could go ahead and transport unmarked goods in and out of the United States?
CIA
or CIA? Because we learned this with Operation Jack Flash. We learned this with the CIA smuggling of drugs in the cartel. I mean, go ahead.
When you're dealing with multiple agencies, and way back when we're talking about the 60s, right? We're talking about there was only a handful of like 3-letter agencies that had the kind of cojones that we would imagine today to be able to pull this kind of thing off. And only one of them had any sort of jurisdiction, is for lack of a better term, but basically what we would say is an authority to operate outside the United States, and that would have been CIA. And they were all over the place back then. FBI is not, they're not billeted for that type of mission. FBI is strictly within the walls of the United States. They do have a terrorism cell that they do intel on, but that didn't exist back then.
So Clay Bertrand is an open homosexual, but wears suits that Arafat wore, if that tells you anything. Persian clothing, very well traveled, very well spoken, very flamboyant, but very proper. And he has an alias. And that alias has been brought up in multiple. No, close. He kind of resembled him with the hair and everything. He looked like a curly-haired Jewish Bob Barker.
God.
But yeah, so there is a name of Clay Shaw that is being circled around the French Quarter and the Trade Mart as a person that if you want to smuggle illicit goods or firearms in or out of Louisiana, you go to. And this person was purported to be a CIA asset and worked for the CIA. Later, it's found out, and Jim Garrison made accusations and wanted to tie Clay Bertrand to Clay Shaw. Mm-hmm. Well, Clay Bertrand is Clay Shaw. And although denied it on the stand for working for the CIA, and the comment, I'll paraphrase, but during the deposition and during the overall jury minutes, Jim Garrison asks Clay Bertrand the question. Actually, his name's Clay Shaw. Bertrand is his alias, excuse me. He asks him the question, have you ever worked for the CIA? And Shaw's response was, if I had, do you think I would be sitting here talking to you?
That's
and this is the
perfect answer.
In the middle of court. So immediately get goosebumps, right? You're like, oh, fuck, this guy's a spook. I mean, there's just no doubt this guy's a fucking spook. Because that's what you would
answer
say.
A question with a question. That's exactly what you're...
Total spook. You're like, oh, fuck, this guy's been to the farm.
If I was,
right. Would I be sitting here talking to you? So later, they found out, Freedom of Information Act, I think it was in 1977, they found out that Clay Bertrand, Clay Shaw was the same person and most assuredly had worked for the CIA. Who do you think paid for the office of Guy Bannister?
Clay Shaw.
That's correct. Who do you think paid for the office of Lee Harvey Oswald? We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. But the payments were anonymously made from an address in the international or the French Quarter Trade Mart. Who do you think owned the building of this aforementioned address?
Jack Ruby?
Clay Shaw.
Okay.
So now you've got
there's so much entanglement going on there.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
that it's hard to pull those threads apart.
With the
level.
Dude.
And the level of interactions, and for all of them to be within a geographic setting like that, right, and to have all of those deep ties,
right?
You almost get the vibe that the CIA used Lee Harvey Oswald because of his Marxism. This is a guy that's just dumb enough to say certain things out loud. Hey, let's you know what I mean?
But
don't you get that vibe though?
No,
right?
no, because I know Jack. You might call me a conspiracy theorist because I know that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't die that day, and I know he wasn't shot that day. There's a few reasons I do know. I also know that he couldn't possibly have done the shootings that they said he did. The kill shot had to go through a Texas oak. You're like, that's no big deal. He was shot in November. Oaks lose their leaves in the winter. So no problem, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Texas oaks, they don't lose their leaves in the winter. They lose them in the summer. It was full plumage. And if you've ever seen an oak tree, you telling me you're going to make a kill rifle shot through an oak tree? Not a fucking chance in full foliage. Seen the shooting. I was there on November 22nd. Saw it. Not November 22nd, 1963, but certainly saw it when I visited twice and saw the same exact tree on elm from the Texas Book Depository, and I couldn't hit that thing with any rifle, and I'm a really good fucking shot. There's a few other things about this. Lee Harvey Oswald. Let's just go down this pathway real quick. By the way, look, anybody wants to fact check me, just fucking fact check me. Look up Texas oak and be like, he's full of shit. There's no such thing as a Texas oak. It doesn't lose its leaves all trees lose their leaves in the winter.
In the summer? You said in the summer though.
It does. What I'm saying is that's what the people are saying.
Oh, I got you. I'm not seeing the comments.
Oak trees in Texas lose their leaves in the summer because of drought stress. Extended periods of dry weather cause these oak trees to shed leaves to conserve water. Oak wilt is a serious fungal disease affecting oak trees, leading to leaf discoloration and wilting and premature leaf drop. Symptoms often appear in the summer months. Insects infestations, pests such as aphids, caterpillars, and borers can damage oak trees, causing them to fall prematurely. Regularly inspection can help identify these issues early and predominantly in the summer when insects are most abundant. So it leaves in the spring. So something to think about. Terry says it's called a live oak. I have one in my front yard. Texas oak, live oak, whatever. The point is that's not the thing that's crazy. Here's the other thing. So let's say this, Leeroy.
Yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald is working in Houston or working in Dallas. Scratch that. Working in Louisiana.
Right. Bourbon. Well, not Bourbon Street, but
French Quarter.
Right.
And decides to move to Dallas, Texas, where he goes and works for whom?
We'll say Clay Shaw. No?
No. He's in Dallas now. So
Okay.
Lee Harvey Oswald moves to Dallas and he uses his skill set to work for a map making company. And these map making companies predominantly, Leeroy knows where I'm going. I just saw it click. This map company predominantly prints large scale maps for the United States government.
Topographical maps that give layout of certain cities.
And this map company, you may have heard, is Jaegers, Chiles, and Stovali.
Stovali?
The Stovali.
That doesn't sound too
Sounds Russian. It sounds Russian. It does not sound American. A commercial graphic arts company in Dallas, Texas that specializes in photograph and map printing. His job was predominantly to work with government maps, which were topographical in nature, but also had an indication of I and A. Watch Leroy's asshole. It's about to pucker. Leroy, can you please tell them what IA
Why?
is? What is IA when it comes to photographs and I'll just tell them imagery analysis.
Imagery analysis.
And what does that mean? Tell the listeners in the back what is IA.
Sure. So imagery analysis is generally, these are the guys that way back when, in the early days of imagery analysis, what they would do is these analysts would be given kind of like what looks like a monocle, and they would sit above these giant maps. And these maps were photographs that were taken from U-2 or the SR-71 or things like this. Things like the airplane that Francis Gary Powers would have been shot down in. And so they would get these maps, right? And they would be blown up on a table. They called it an electronic light table. And analysts would literally, with a monocle, go around and examine every portion of the map to look for things like missile emplacements or aircraft or new construction of runways, things like that. And that's what the U.S. intelligence that's how that kind of job started in the military. That's what an imagery analyst does. Sorry.
Is a clearance required for that? Considering that's
oh yeah, that's a
imagery.
TS.
TS, the one that he never had.
That's a TS SCI.
Thomas, what part of Texas do you live in? Thomas Austin. He says he has live oaks. I'm interested to hear what type of or where you're at in Texas. Lee Harvey Oswald's job was to take photographs. He was also in a graphics art position where he could manipulate text and images. And back in the day, they didn't have computers, so it was a modern day Photoshop used with X-Acto knives and orange and green overlay paper and rescanning and resouping the film to create images. This
a lot of mosaic work where they'd patched certain maps together or certain photos. Yeah,
completely. Yeah, Thomas, North Carolina is not what I said. I said Texas. And for the issues that I explained down in Texas, live oaks, that might be the name of your oaks, but Texas oak, I'm just letting you know how they handle, especially in large city environments where the water is sparse in the winter, and there's not a lot of moisture. And yeah, here is a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald. Elaine keeps saying, Lee Harvey Oswald did not shoot JFK. Someone in the CIA did. Well, Elaine, I never said he shot JFK. In fact, I am almost certain that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't shoot John F. Kennedy. But I will tell you, he was complicit in the plot to shoot John F. Kennedy and was absolutely a co-conspirator in this process. This photograph is fake as shit. I want you to look at the sun.
Militant. Does that say militant?
No. Yeah. It says militant. Yeah. And it's a newspaper. It's a Dallas Star, Dallas Chronicle. I don't remember the name of the press.
Yeah. And he's packing on his right hip. Sure.
Yep. He's got a .38 revolver, and he's got a Marlin Carcano rifle, which is a mail order. It's a mail order. He could walk into any gun store in Texas and pick that up and walk out with it the same minute. But I want you to look at the shadow. You're an imagery analyst. I want you to look at the shadow coming off of his nose, down his face. Where do you and his chin? Where do you think the sun is? What position is it?
Well, you would think that the sun would be at about the 12 o'clock position, given that. It's going to be directly overhead. Now, here's the thing. I'm already picking up on some inconsistencies in the shadows. It looks like...
don't do that. Don't do that yet. Don't do that yet. Don't spoil. Just give me the face. What time?
Yeah. It looks like general noon, somewhere between 11 and 2.
Paper, same thing. Fingers pretty much perpendicular with the finger. And the paper is aglow and casting a shadow back under the arm. All fairly consistent. Uh-oh.
Oh, what's going
on
there?
How about now?
Why would that be?
And why would be? Well, and not only that, but why is the shadow missing from his right shoulder all the way down?
Something's not right.
Look at the shadows on the lower trees. They're conducive with the shadow here. But the heads and the shoulder don't match. And look at the way the body's leaning.
No. Something's not right.
Now I want you to look underneath the chin. And I want you to look at the shadows on the jawline and on the left side of his face. And look at the dark shadow on the side of his neck. If you take a look at the rifle, that's really where it'll tell you. Because now you have a third position of the sun where the gleam of the rifle is, where the sun's reflecting. You look at some of the shinier spots on the rifle. So you're absolutely correct. There's inconsistencies from where his face is and this photograph. Is that enough?
Here's the thing. Those shadows that are behind him on the house, if they were to fall in the same pattern as him on the ground, then those shadows wouldn't exist. They'd be going the other direction.
Correct.
They'd be going behind. And it looks like To his left, that is a stairway. That is a wooden staircase. So that looks correct because, again, that shadow is going straight down. No, something's off.
It's a manipulated photograph. But this came out. Now, the amazing FBI that we have
Who leans like that?
Nobody. The FBI released this photograph.
Seriously, look at the way he's leaning. That's a good 10 degrees. I mean, you're not shifting your weight and still maintaining your stance like that.
Right.
I don't know. Something's off.
Well, it's superimposed.
It's like...
So, I'm not done. But we can talk about other things, right? We can talk about how multiple Oswalds were seen, that he went across the Mexico border, that he tried to go ahead and enter Cuba, that he tried to go ahead and defect from the United States once again. We can talk about how far he had to run from the Texas Book Depository, how many flights of stairs he had to go down, that he had no powder burns on his hands that day from firing a weapon. Nitrate testing was negative. How the 38 was dropped at the scene. The response at the Dallas theater. He just didn't pay his ticket. What's up?
Well, question. He's standing there with the photo, right? He's standing in the photo, right? He's got the rifle. He's got the gun. He's got the newspaper, which, to your point, sure enough, all look staged. Nobody ever thought to ask who took the photo.
Right. Right. It's not like you're popping Kodaks with time. Now, I want to say he could have just no. So I want to show you something, and I'm not going to talk about how 50 officers showed up at the movie theater because he didn't pay for his ticket. They didn't have Oswald's description. They didn't know who they were looking for. Officer Tippett was shot, supposedly by Lee Harvey Oswald at point blank range, and he shot Officer Tippett. But then went to the movie theater, didn't stop. He had a couple bucks in his pocket for like a 25-cent ticket. Didn't pay for the movie ticket and waited in the theater, and every single cop in the local vicinity showed up for an unpaid ticket. It doesn't make much sense. Right?
No.
Here's the one that condemned it for me, and then we'll move on. Folks, we're only at 132.79. These 2 hours have flown by. So if you have the opportunity, we got to get there.
I love watch when you get passionate about a subject, and it's obvious that you have a grand depth of knowledge on this subject and an absolute, commitment to understanding the entirety of the situation that happened on that day. I applaud you for that. I
appreciate
never really that is not one of the historical events that I've actually ever paid a lot of attention to. And maybe that's a fault of mine. I already have a pretty strong distrust of government anyway. So even if I ever were to find out tomorrow when Trump releases it, oh my God, the CIA did it. Like I would have already guessed that. I already don't like them. So yeah, but I applaud you for your breadth of knowledge on that.
I thank you. This is the photo, the only other photo that I'm going to go ahead and talk about. And I'm not giving you conspiratorial things. What I'm doing is I'm giving you the why. Okay? You're talking about almost $1 trillion made in the Vietnam War. And back then, that's like 10 now. And John F. Kennedy wanted to stop it.
That is more than the GDP of nearly every country in the world back then, except for maybe 2. So this is not an insignificant amount of money. That is huge.
Okay, listen to this shit. The ambulance that carried John F. Kennedy is
for the cost of a bullet.
The ambulance that carried John F. Kennedy's body is also plagued in conspiracy. Dude, I can give you that too. Even the coffin. I can tell you that the body was not on the plane that went back to Bethesda. They lost the brain.
I've been on that plane, by the way. They have that plane parked here at Wright Pat.
They lost his brain. There is so many inconsistencies. If you want to do conspiracy theory, this is the one. Because this is the one where it's not conspiracy. It just disproves the Warren report. And unless you read the Warren report, you won't know where to look. But I figured out the why a long time ago. And it absolutely has to do with civil rights, Indochina, Russian space race, and Russian strategic ability to get a nuclear warhead, and the United States and Russia co-optively working towards an end goal of mutual conflict. Not working together, just working in the same direction and not stopping it. Here's a photograph. This will blow your mind. Folks, I have never asked for donations after 9 o'clock before like this, but we are way off. And we're a show. I think this is one of the best shows. And I think what happened is a lot of people are like eating the popcorn and watching, but we do have to pay for the show. So if you have not had a chance, please go to thedumshow.com/donate. Like,
all of this knowledge, folks, all of this knowledge, it's sitting here. And in order for us to continue that, we have to fund the show.
Us. No, you don't have to. We have but trust me, when they release this, I wrote a letter to President Donald Trump today. And I know it's going to get to him because Jason is going to give it to RFK. By the way, Jason just had a photograph with RFK, and they were at the Maha event.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so Jason has a relationship, and I can't go into any more details. There's a lot of things happening. I can't talk about it. But what I can tell you is that if anyone can get a letter to RFK, it's Jason. And I wrote down, I have studied this my whole life. It was my uncle's passion, and I want nothing more than to release this information. When this drops, can I please get a copy? Because I'm very interested. I hope that I get a chance. The hospital in Texas lost JFK's brain. That is a whole nother conversation. But when Jim Garrison went ahead and subpoenaed the brain, they said they lost it.
It was actually Clay Shaw's brain. No, I don't know.
The real reason why you don't show the brain is because that gives you your trajectory. And once you get that, you can use forensic analysis to identify where the shots came from. And the shots did not come from Texas Book Depository. So let's just do this last picture, and then we're going to be done. And hopefully we can get some donations here.
Oh,
tell me what you see.
I see some very old suits. I see a guy who looks kind of shocked, like, hey, what are you about to do here? Another guy who looks like he's singing karaoke, and a right-handed man with what looks to be a 38.
A 38. We talked about the mob, right? Guess who that guy is? Who do you think that guy is with that 38?
Frank Sinatra. No idea.
Jack Ruby. So, November 22nd, 1963. The temperature was a balmy 72 degrees. Humidity was fairly high. Started out in the early morning around 60. It was about 72 by noon. John F. Kennedy was shot, fatal shot, I think at 12:03, 12:01 was when the first contact of the motorcade came. Standard prison issue for the Dallas police station. What do you think the standard issue for dress in 72-degree weather in November in Dallas would be for most convicts? Well, I'll tell you, the standard Navy uniform. When you and I went in, we had dungaree blue and dungaree lower, right? We had the blue, light blue shirt. And
I love those, but yeah.
That was the standard issue. Until when?
Just actually right before that shot of me with Francis Gary Powers Jr.
And
they used fatigues. They went to a different uniform for a while, but they didn't kill the dungarees until the 90s.
They went to the, I know, but they went to the sweater in the winter months. and they added the sweater to the uniform. Lee Harvey Oswald is wearing standard prison issue shoes, standard prison issue pants, standard prison issue shirt, and standard prison issue winter sweater. Cold weather. And those are long sleeves, by the way. They're not short sleeves. You can see his arm comes out. You can see a little bit of the blue. So he is in winter formal. But there's something else that's going on here. I want you to
where's
look
that
at
guy's
that
hands?
I want you to look at the sweater. What is that indicating? The straight line across the collar. Why would a sweater ever fall that way?
Is it backwards?
Nope. Oh, that's a very good question. No. But it looks like it's backwards.
Yeah.
What could possibly,
like the tag is up front, like he's an idiot.
What could possibly stretch a sweater out like this? Look at my shirt.
Yeah.
What could possibly stretch it out
vest?
like that?
You think he has a vest on?
I don't think he has a vest on. I fucking know he has a vest on. And I also know from the shot and the single 38 in a stomach wound, you don't die immediately. You also don't react to the shot before the guy pulls the trigger and make this face. Jack Ruby was friends with the Dallas Police Department. He was rushed to the hospital that day. Lee Harvey Oswald does not have any admission to any hospital. People said he took him to Dallas Memorial, I believe. I don't believe Lee Harvey Oswald was shot that day. Thank you, Ashley Gleason. So good, guys. I'm going to have to re-listen to get all this processed. Here's what I will say. There's no reason to dress somebody in all in black and all dungarees unless you don't want to show the blood. A stomach wound is nasty, and it takes forever to die.
And it's going to bleed.
And it's going to bleed a lot. And there were no signs. The whole thing screams weird.
Thank you, Kevster.
Kev, you're the best.
It is weird, isn't it? The whole thing is bizarre.
The last thing I'll say is that when they exhumed Lee Harvey Oswald's body, and they did this like 20 years, 30 years ago, I don't know, 25, is that the DNA test matched. But I believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was taken from this position. But Jack Ruby got in because someone left a door open for Jack Ruby in the Dallas Police Department, because we know he has friends in the Dallas PD. We know he was buddies with all of them. We knew he was buddies with Guy Bannister because he was an ex-cop, but he had mob ties. When asked, Jack Ruby, who reportedly multiple times said, fuck Kennedy, Kennedy was a communist and he hated Kennedy, was asked why he shot Lee Harvey Oswald, and his answer was, because I wanted to save Jackie Onassis from the horrors of a long trial. Thank you, JD.
Thank you, JD.
So, Lee Harvey Oswald, in my opinion, was recruited by the Central Intelligence Agency. He was trained in linguistics. He was probably found to have a certain level of characteristics in his psychological profile, like you and I did. And they recruited him. Realized he wasn't a very good Marine. They trained him in linguistics. They gave him a tradecraft. He went into Russia, came back, and used his amazing skill sets as a radio operator, a radio technician, a former United States Marine. I'm not done. Wait, let me finish this. This is great. Working in a government map factory with imaging analysis clearance, and decides to go and work in a book
that has
depository,
Russian ties,
and decides to go to a Texas book depository making a couple dollars an hour. That's what he decides to do. Caller, where are you from? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, this is Frank from Minnesota. Joseph. Excuse me.
Yeah, Joseph from Minnesota.
Minnesota. How you doing, Frank?
Hello.
I'm doing all right.
What's up, buddy? What do you want to talk about?
I think the key to the whole deal is Jack Ruby, where isn't it like when you follow crime, you go from the last point and follow it from the back to the beginning?
Here, real quick. Hey, Leeroy, here's the shot right before he pulled the trigger. Aimed right at his stomach line, right through his arm.
Yeah. That looks...
You don't hit him there. You shoot him right in the fucking head. You shoot him in the head. You don't shoot him in the stomach.
Chest.
There's
or chest.
Chest,
I can
heart.
see chest shot, you know?
Frank, Jack Ruby isn't the answer to this. If we would have went ahead and looked at Jack Ruby, you would have found probably the connection to... Jim Garrison did all this. We haven't even talked about David Ferry. We haven't talked about Operation Mongoose. There are so many different things to this. You have to lay this to Kennedy's... Kennedy was soft on communism. That's what got him killed. But Jack Ruby wouldn't have been the linchpin to this. The only person who could have been a linchpin to this truly was Lee Harvey Oswald. And that's why he had to die. Because Lee Harvey Oswald was the CIA asset. He could explain how he went to Russia. He can say that he was working for the CIA, that he had handlers at the U.S. Embassy, that his passports were reissued before he even left Russia, that he got stamped by the State Department, that he wasn't picked up by CID or anyone else to literally interrogate him. This guy had a pass and was built and put into the Intel district. He was at the embassy in Mexico. He was trying to cross. There were Oswalds popping up all over the South. I mean, this whole thing. I haven't even talked to you about how Australia, literally fucking Australia, had a full-page newspaper ad with Lee Harvey Oswald's bio and history out 3 hours after the shooting. Give me a fucking
Nobody
break.
reacts that fast, especially in the 60s.
Give me fucking CIA, dude. Everything screams CIA about this.
Well, I'm not Frank. I'm Joseph, but
I didn't call you Frank. Leeroy. Joseph. Leeroy called you Frank. I called you Joseph.
I thought he said Frank.
He was joking because we always mix them up. I didn't mix them up this time. It was Leeroy.
No.
So
that was my bad.
Leeroy, I'm Joseph. Thank you, but yeah, it threw me off there. I had a question for the both of you regarding this, but I agree with you on the Lee Harvey Oswald connection. But I just thought sometimes in cases you go from the last situation and you trace from there to get to the full crime.
Right. But see, Joseph, the last situation wasn't Jack Ruby. The last situation was the Warren Commission when John F. Kennedy fired Allen Dulles and fired General McNamara. Do you know who Allen Dulles was?
No, I'm not really familiar.
Let me give it to you. He was the head of the CIA. John F. Kennedy fired him. Do you want to know who the head of the Warren Commission was? Take a guess. Alan Dulles. So let me make sure I got this right.
Okay.
The head of the fucking CIA, the head of the CIA gets knocked by John Kennedy, and then they go ahead and assign him to run the Warren Report with Earl Warren and to run the investigation into his assassination. Does that sound right to you?
Not at all.
No, it doesn't, and it shouldn't. The Warren Report is a bunch of bullshit. Go ahead, buddy.
What do you think? In your opinion, what do you think we're going to learn from the files being opened up regarding this assassination?
Nothing.
What in your opinion? What do you think we're going to learn?
I think we're going to learn. Well, there was just a 14,000 page document dump like a year ago, and I went through that and I said with no equivocation that it just absolutely drops at LBJ and CIA's door, 100%, and with no doubt in my mind now. I don't think that these drops are going to change it. I think these drops are going to just confirm what I already know, is that it was the CIA and it was the United States government that took out Kennedy.
I also think that this probably won't give any sort of solid answer one way or the other. To Matt's point, what you're going to see is an indication that might suggest implication of somebody, but no real solid evidence.
Yeah.
Well, LBJ and JFK, they didn't really get along. I think JFK brought him along just to get the Southern vote.
Just to win Texas. That's all. He gave him Texas. That's why. But see, LBJ did one thing. LBJ did one thing that gave the United States government what they want. He signed the declaration to start the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And LBJ, he supported the clandestine operations for the Central Intelligence Agency in Indochina and signed a declaration essentially which gave authorization and green light to start Vietnam. And this changed the face of the United States. And there is a lot of money in this. And the United States government had a clear and present danger with communism, and Indochina was the way to do it.
Yeah.
So much money involved, the war industrial complex, billions of dollars for contractors, and defense contractors, and so many people got rich off of the Vietnam War companies, corporations, off of, that. Well, what I understand is Kennedy just had advisors there, CIA and maybe some training, special ops. And then I think he was going to pull out of there or keep it at that level. But I think he was just going to get the hell out of there, from what I understand from his.
Well, Operation Mongoose was full. It was full volunteers, mercenaries, mercs, militants, and the Bay of Pigs was a huge scar of disgrace on Kennedy. They wanted full military intervention to invade Cuba, and John F. Kennedy would not do it. John F. Kennedy also stood down for the Bay of Pigs when it came to the Cuban Missile Crisis and traded missiles with Khrushchev. If you remember, they stopped fueling their birds in Cuba, and the reason why is Bobby Kennedy went to the Russian consulate and did a backdoor trade with Khrushchev. And
I can't remember the name
of
the book.
Hold on a second. And traded missiles in Turkey 6 months later. And they waited 6 months so the press could not coincide the two instances. But everyone knew that Kennedy was soft on communism and could be rolled by the Russians multiple times now. Go ahead.
I can't remember the name of the book about the Bay of Pigs. It was like basically the countdown to World War III, when Khrushchev had all the ships there.
13 days?
Yes. I think it was 13 days or something like that, where it was a 13. Countdown. It was going to end up 13. To be World War III.
Yeah, right. 13 days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's several books on it. There's a good movie with it with Kevin Costner, and does a pretty good job on it.
Okay. Well, I read a book in college about it, and it was
Joseph.
Unbelievable.
Let me let you go, buddy. I want to wrap this up to get Leeroy out of here. I appreciate you calling. I don't mean to brush you off. It's just been a long night, and I want to put a bow on all this, if that's okay, Bubba. Okay?
Okay, you take care.
Joseph,
Leeroy,
thank you very much for the call. It was good to hear
buddy.
from you, brother.
All right. You all
Talk
take care.
Thanks, Joseph. So I'm just going to leave you with one bit more of info. Oh, my Lord.
What's up?
Hold on. Get another call.
Oh.
Hey, hi.
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 Candy, hold on. Let me get this. Let me get this one thing out, Mel, and then I'll let you go.
Yep.
Leeroy, for 7 minutes after John F. Kennedy assassination took place, phone and communications at Fort Meade, Washington, D.C., telecoms went out for 7 minutes. Half the cabinet was out of the country. and the National Guard in Washington, D.C. was activated.
Okay.
It had standby orders.
That part makes sense. The drop in comms has me a little perplexed.
He wasn't going to leave Dallas. No matter what, he wasn't leaving Dallas. There is so much. I mean, Garrison was a nut job. Jim Garrison really was. Fucking little out there. But he was very good at collection. And I don't think he knew what he had. But he is the only person to bring a legitimate case against the United States government in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And although I don't think people think that there was some vote. People think that there was some giant government initiative with LBJ going, kill that son.
Right.
No, that's not what happened. This was shadow ops. These are guys who were who took care of Laos. They were responsible for hitting high Oberstlieutenants and Nazis in Germany. These guys were essentially CIA Office of Strategic Services spooks who were responsible for Enigma code breaking. These are the guys who got the Dalai Lama out. These guys went after the Shah in Iran. These are the guys who poisoned Castro's food. I mean, this was not U.S. government run. This was clandestine operations who had ties to the government, who were tasked with regime change in the United States of America, who literally spent the last 60 years doing regime change for the United States of America. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, obviously I still have, this is just the analyst end of my brain. So I have 1,000 other questions. I am tracking. I understand what you're saying, but there's just so much more that I would want to know about that.
Of course, dude. And you can't get there in one night.
Right. And no matter how many movies or books, it's just how my brain works. I want to know more.
If you know who it's not, you know who it is.
Right.
That's my point. And everything I've told you tonight, when you've
eliminated the impossible, whatever
Occam's
left,
razor.
however improbable, has to be the truth. Yeah.
Occam's razor. Absolutely. Mel, you want to give us some insight up there in Canada?
Not so much insight. I just want to know if you really believe after he signed that executive order that all of these files are going to be finally released or whatever. Has anybody reported major smoke or whatever coming out of the National Archives and CIA headquarters?
That's a good question.
All these other places, because I'm sure there's book burning and shit burning and stuff being destroyed as we speak, because I guarantee you, after all of this, and I am like you, Matt, I've studied this, watched this, because I was a little kid sitting in school in Canada watching on TV this whole whatever, and was devastated by, and have followed this for a lot of my older years too. And I don't believe in a heartbeat that, I don't care if he signed whatever paperwork, unless you walked it there at that moment and handed it to him. I'll guarantee you there's book burning going on, and I'm sure there's going to be a fire reported at the National Archives.
You might be right, Mel. I think they did that quite a while ago.
Oh, I agree. Like, I'm sure there is nothing, like, those files are going to have just little codes on whatever, and you're going to open it up and you're going to go and blow the dust out of the inside, because that's all of the ashes that are left, because there's nothing left. They would have not left anything to chance for it to come out, even after this long period of time, especially when it was threatened 4 years prior to, or when Donald got in and we got the first little dump. that was the last. That's the last you're ever going to see of any of it, because the rest of it was destroyed after that. And that's just my take on it.
So let me address something. People have been asking me this for years, and I love disproving this. This is something I can crush like with a finger. Folks, thedumshow.com/donate. It shocks me out of tonight of all nights. I thought tonight was one of the best shows that we've done. People have been asking for this type of show for a while, but we're short. We're 213.89, and I'm staying on. I got a living to make. I got to keep the lights on, and these shows are not cheap. I got 170 people on in network, and I've got another 160 out of network. I am confident there are maybe 10 or 15 people that could just say, hey, you know what, $5, this is worth it. Let's do it. Need some help tonight. Got to hit the number. People keep asking, Matt, is George Bush, you don't need to go to Link Tap Go. Just go to thedumshow.com/donate. You don't need to use Link Tap Go. Thedumshow.com/donate. And just click on PayPal or Venmo, and that is how you do it. Real simple. People ask me, is George Bush, did he kill John F. Kennedy? Folks, George Bush wasn't the director of the CIA in 1963.
No,
George
Bush became 20 years removed, right?
No, it's about 12, 13. He actually, I think he became in 1975, maybe 1973. No, 76. And he only did it for a year or so, and he was there till 1977. He was with Zapata Offshore Drilling, I believe. Started that in 56, and he was a private citizen. He wasn't in the intel community as of yet. So when people say George, but that is a complete lie. It's a fallacy. It's bullshit. George Bush had nothing to do with the CIA, had nothing to do with the Kennedy assassination. That is just bullshit conspiracy theory. So no.
Yeah. I agree.
So anyway, Mel, we love you. How are you? You doing okay?
Well, still trying to thaw out up here, but yeah, we're working on it.
Oh my God, right?
All good. Oh yeah. We've got the freeze, same as you guys do. We want to send it back to Alaska, but they don't want to take it either. So yeah, we're all a little frosty up here too.
I got about 3/4 of the way home, and it started snowing on me again, and I almost lost my mind.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to our world. But yeah, I guess after I saw New Orleans, and actually friends of mine were down there the day before, and they got on a cruise ship. So I had sent them a text, and they didn't even know it had snowed in New Orleans. So they're only like 2 days out on the cruise. So like, well, you guys got to come back to it. Hopefully it thaws out by the time you get back. So yeah.
Well, listen, I want to tell you, we should talk about this one day and talk about the Kennedy assassination. By the way, Pete Hegseth was confirmed to the Senate. That'll now go to the House, and we'll have a harder time through there, but we'll see what happens. I believe House is next.
You are correct.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But 3 of them, McConnell, Murkowski, and what's her fuck?
Collins.
Yeah, Collins said no. And I think, wasn't J.D. Vance the tiebreaker?
Yes.
So there we are. Mel, I love you, kid. I got to get Leeroy to bed. He's an old man, and I'm trying to hit our goal. So I gotta bail.
Nope. Too easy. Good. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. If you see funny fires, you probably know what's happening. Anyway,
yes, ma'am.
Cheers, guys.
Love you. Bye.
Cheers, Mel. Love you, kid.
She's amazing. So quickly,
so
and then
cool.
I know Mel's the best, dude. Yeah. There's so many great people here, but she's one of my faves. And she got mad at me one time, and God, thank God I was really patient, because she was patient with me, because I was like, oh man, I love that lady. There's so many people here who are good people, and you never want to lose anybody. No. There's also a rumor. I just want to I want to go over this real quick. And Leeroy, if you have to jump off at any time, please jump off.
No, I'm good.
A lot of people are saying that the driver went ahead and shot John F. Kennedy. Folks, I understand that.
How could that have happened in full view of everyone?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how it works. If you're gonna, I mean, When Jack Ruby supposedly shot, thank you, Jane. When Jack Ruby supposedly shot Lee Harvey Oswald, that was in full view, but that wasn't also, that was intentional. And this whole thing to me it's like a giant, you know what it reminds me of? It's kind of like a Penn and Teller's cups and balls trick. It's a shell game, right? And instead of actual shells and balls, it's you've got a patsy, you've got 3-letter agencies, and you've got countries. And every time you think that you know who the hell, thank you, Paul. Every time you think you know or have an indication, oh, it was the CIA, oh, it was Russia, oh, it was the communists or the workers' unions, or there's somebody moves another shell, and you're right back to square one. This was intentionally entangled. Thank you very much, Janet. This was intentionally muddied. The waters are so muddy so that nobody would ever have a clear indication or a clear idea or path that this person was responsible, or this agency or country, and that's intentional. It was a giant cover-up, and I don't think that the release of any reports, however unredacted they might be, I don't think you're going to get a clear indication.
Let me just show you the difference between what we did here tonight and conspiracy theory. Nothing we did here was conspiracy theory. What we did is we talked about the facts that sound very fishy and strange. And there are going to be there are explanations for some of these things. There aren't explanations for all of these things. So what I don't do is dabble in conspiracy theory. I use fact. And I have spent a lifetime studying this. And when I say a lifetime, I mean, you guys, what is in my head about the John F. Kennedy assassination through a conversation is I could do 50 shows that are 2 hours apiece and break it down, because we can go into MLK, we can go into RFK. There are so many things. We can go into Arafat. We can go into the Shah of Iran. We can go into the Dalai Lama, for God's sakes. We can go into OSS. There are so many different things that tie into this. But this video, I just want to show you, this is conspiracy theory. And there are things that disprove this video. This is one of the most popular videos on the internet as far as the Zapruder film. This has been shared over 4 million times. It is very, very, very popular. And it's completely fucking bullshit. Here it is. 2 minutes, and then Leeroy, we're going to get you out of here, buddy. Okay. I appreciate you staying late. I love when we're on, because it can. And hey, you let me drive tonight. Thank you. Usually it's more sharing, but thank you for letting me drive.
Yeah,
I love you.
You're good.
All right.
Now the next tape is your typical one where the driver just keeps driving, never even flinches with the gun. And he stops the tape. And he says, look at the tree. And there's the top of a...
This is one of the first things in this video is a tree. I'm going to play it back and let you hear the beginning of this. But I will tell you, this tree is in a planter bed. So the tree isn't floating. It's a retaining wall.
Oh, okay.
So watch.
But then he slowed it way down. And it was so slow.
Thank you, Deborah.
That
good show tonight as usual. Thanks, Deborah.
See the air moving. Then you saw the driver take a gun and go like this and shoot Kennedy. And the bullet comes out of the gun this slow. Very, very, very slow.
What?
And it hits Kennedy in the head. And you see everything flying out of his head. And I'm thinking, this isn't the tape I ever saw before. So I said, is this a doctored tape? What's this about? And he said, this is the original one. And I said, no, you know. And he says, well, I'm going to show you the one that you've seen on the media. Now, the next tape is your...
You know what, Dane? If he may not need House confirmation, he may only need Senate. I'm not sure, buddy. We went down the Kennedy thing tonight, but I will find out for you guys, I promise.
Typical one where the driver just keeps driving, never even flinches with the gun. And he stops the tape. And he says, look at the tree.
My kid says that
the top
that's how
of
he's
a
going to
tree
get rid of
growing
me.
in air. And he says, this is the one that you're seeing on the media. And it's been doctored. He looked very, very intently at me and he said, nothing is as it appears to be. That tape was the last thing he did before I left. And it occurred to me that that was shown so that it would provide deniability for Robert Booth Nichols. He had to have doctored that, to have put half a tree in that film. So that, you know, my ability to see the truth or to report the facts kind of goes out the window when you start describing that film, especially if you say you believed it. I can tell you right now, I saw it. There's no question what I saw. But like he said, nothing is as it appears to be in this world, their world.
Holy fucking digitally altered. Okay. Real?
I have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's slow bullet, huh? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I have a big problem with that. First of all, we as Americans are not very good at keeping secrets. And if the driver of all people had turned around and shot a super slow motion bullet
through two people,
and how many of the cops, how many of the audience, how many of the Secret Service, how many audience members would have seen that event,
step into Wix
Studio, and said, "Hey, wait a minute," no matter how much they were paid or you know how much they were threatened or whatever the case may be, there is no way that number of people. Look at how many people are standing there. There is no way that many people would remain silent. Never happen.
Folks, this is an HD enhancement. Can I explain something? The way that film works. This is taking a certain amount of frames per second. And occasionally there is loss on the transfer of film. These things were not digital. They were optics, vibration, light. There's a lot of reasons for things to not appear, but this is showing you frame by frame on the real side by side to this enhancement. First of all, that's the first shot. And that hits John F. Kennedy in the neck. When we look at this and it goes through, McKinley, governor, is right here. Mm-hmm. And if you look, something you may not know is that right here. See that white right here?
Mm-hmm.
That's his Stetson. But this is the bullet that was supposed to enter the base of the neck, travel through the neck, come out, go left, go right, go down, go forward through the chair, through McKinley's back, up, out, down, and hit his wrist bone, shattering his wrist in his right hand, where he continues to hold his Stetson hat.
On top of that, don't move that image, but take a look at where his wife is. If the driver of the vehicle had turned around, right, and had shot at Kennedy, Jacqueline Kennedy is in perfect view to have witnessed all of that. She would have seen that. And you're not, that would never happen. If you were going to go through the steps of assassinating a president, are you going to leave a potential witness, or are you going to, get rid of the witnesses too?
Yeah.
Right. So if you were the driver and you were getting ready to potentially off your own president, I mean, I'm saying you're going to want to get rid of the wife too, just for the sake of, oh my God, she's sitting right next to him. What if she sees me? So no, that lady's story is complete bunk.
See this right here? This is where the bubble top support brace is. It also has window enclosure for separation so private conversations can take place in the presidential limo. Not only that, but you are not going to have the head trauma that you have with a pistol. There is Tommy's on here. Anyone who's fired a pistol, there is no pistol that's going to do just the amount of spray and the amount of overall impact that you're going to see. That is a rifle through and fucking through.
Yeah.
Let's watch the rest.
Oh.
There's your head. There's your headshot. And it's back and to the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will tell you that the fatal killing shot did not come from the front. The trajectory of the windshield would not have allowed that to happen. And this is where you have the null. So this is an elevated plateau. The angle isn't accurate. It entered and then exploded. And what happens with a bullet is a bullet comes in at a fine point, makes a cavity, and then it mushrooms and spreads, and then creates an exit hole that's large because the bullet has fragmented and the bullet has expanded and lost its formation and would create a very large hole and a backward projection. A lot of people think that you get hit by a bullet in the head that you go back. You might initially have some slight back drop, but then when it explodes out the back, you're going to go forward because of the concussive force. I want you to think of like a rocket engine.
Yeah, but his
narrow
went back.
hole. All the what? Yeah.
Yeah, but
so
his
watch.
head dropped back, not forward.
No, watch.
Hold on.
That's why the shot came from the back, is because front it projected out, which created force for him to go back into the left. Watch. See that? So there's the shot, slightly forward, killing shot is right. There's the shot. There's the expulsion of brain matter, blood, and pressure, which your body is under constant pressure. It's how you maintain your blood flow, blood pressure, etc. So when that goes in and then goes out, that is a fraction of a second. Before any pressure is released from the back, it's going to choose the passive least resistance, and it's going to go out of the largest hole, and this is here. It's going to follow the bullet down its channel. This is what pushes him back. So the shot came from the back. Full speed. Now, Jackie O immediately gets up.
And that spray that you see is exiting from the front.
Right. Pink mist.
Right.
And it's through this side of his cavity. So this part of his frontal cortex and skull cap, which if you look at the skull, it's got two dividing lines around, one down the middle and one down here for pressure. This entire front section came off, and the entire front flap from essentially his orbital bone here across his eye to his temple all the way to the peak of the widow's peak flap came off.
Damn.
So when people say, did it come from the depository? I never said Lee Harvey Oswald did it. I believe it came from the depository, and there were two nests. And there were two spots in the Texas school, or the Texas Book Depository. And I do believe that you had two shooters shooting. Because there's no way that Lee Harvey Oswald could do that shooting alone. And I think you had redundancies.
Well, and that's why you saw one through the neck. And even if it was with a bolt action, right? If I'm taking aim at something and I've got a bolt action, I take shot number one, goes through a neck. By the time I have racked the second one, that car has already traveled quite a distance. And to be able to keep that, keep track on that, man, I don't know. I think you might, yeah.
And let me explain something. There was multiple, Glenn says, Matt, Jacqueline retrieved the patch of scalp. No, she did not. And skull from the trunk deck. the headshot, the shot have come from the right front to blow the back of his head out. Folks, let me pull up a map so we can really do this. This is brain matter because you get shot in the head, it not just projects front, it projects back too. The initial hole is going to have projection from the back too. You're going to see brain matter and blood in both spots. And when he moves back and that initial force, you can see it project to the back and front. And she goes back, and a lot of people are saying she was trying to escape. She was trying to pick up his brains. She was scooping up his brains. So far, nothing new. Arthur, we're not doing new. Go someplace else.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Cannot even imagine.
Yeah. So she's trying to say and get everything, and Secret Service gets on the back. So if we watch it again in full speed, grabs throat, takes shot, and exit. You wouldn't see that type of exit entry in the front. Yeah. See, Tommy knows. So let's do this. Watch. He's right. Watermelon, shot, rifle, slow motion. Who thinks to grab his brains? The person he loves. This woman, can you imagine? Well, here's a good example.
Yeah.
But I like to see a watermelon.
Yeah.
Oh, ballistics gel. Yeah, ballistics gel will work. Okay, so let's watch this so you guys understand. So watch what happens. Now, I don't know if this has human cadaver. It doesn't have bones, so that's not a fair
no. You
comparison.
know what?
Here's
Scott,
a watermelon.
Scott from Kentucky Ballistics does a lot of that with like dummy torsos.
Yeah, it's really hard without a skull because that's going to change the overall cavity and how the integrity of the cavity is going to create a channel. So
that's a shotgun.
Understand that when mist happens, it leaves and it atomizes blood into the air. Okay, so it's going to create a cloud. So anything that was in the front is going to be the back because the car is also going to move through the cloud. You understand that? So that's going to leave remnants and particles because it goes atmospheric. Let me show you a map of, and then we got to go. Once again, you drop off anytime. Okay, so this is a really good map. Yeah, we're not doing new right now. I'm not saying that anything I'm saying is well, a lot of it's new. A lot of people don't know these things, but I'm not claiming to have new information.
Yeah, I didn't realize this, but Brandon Herrera also did a examination of that.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. All right.
Yeah.
So if you guys look, here's Maine. Remember I was telling you about Maine? Maine is the optimal point because there's no turn. But they had to go down Houston. Do you understand? So this is Maine. This is where they should have went. And this has a triple underpass. This has access to the freeway because there's a roundabout here to get onto the freeway. So this is the better choice. But this turn right here is no good. Here's the county courts building. This is records. This is a Daltex building. And here's the school depository. Here's the 6th floor window. And based on trajectory, I think there's a possibility that there could have been a second shooter in the 3rd. I do not buy the grassy knoll theory because the shot did not come from the front. There very well could have been a shot that came to the front because there were more than 2 shots that day. There was a third shot. One bullet was found in absolute pristine condition on the stretcher, which is a fucking joke. Pristine condition. And if there was more than 3 shots, then there is a conspiracy.
So in that diagram, and I'm just going to go ahead and point this out, and I'm not saying that it's probably just an oversight, so I'm not criticizing this too terribly, but if that limo had taken the left around the pool, the very first shot that they have diagrammed there is shot 2.
It's a better shot.
The second one also says shot 2?
Yeah, so let me explain here. So this is the first of all, this is a better trajectory and better shot than having him go away. His into angle from here is much better. This is a slower trajectory, and he would have had a front kill shot. He should have shot from here. If this is truly where it came from the 6th floor window, this is his optimum. Here, he has to shoot through a tree. No shot is taken coming up Houston. So Houston comes around and takes this very wide turn. This is a huge wide turn. This isn't a standard left turn. He has to basically do a slowdown. Slows down to about 3.5, 4 miles an hour. And then proceeds. Second shot from here is through a tree. Through a tree. This is the tree. This is the Texas elm. I'll show you a photograph of it. Here's shot 2, and then shot 3 supposedly from this angle. This is 240 feet. This was about 267 feet away. And this is the kill shot. First shot, we don't know where it went. But what they're saying is that 3 shots were done by that Marlican Carcano. So follow me. First shot went through his throat and was the magic bullet fucking theory that hit McConnelly in the front wrist. That went through his neck, went left, went right, went down, went through the seat, went through his back, out his chest cavity, shoulder cavity, chest area, dropped down again, did a 37-degree drop angle, went through his wrist and lodged into his thigh. That's what they're saying versus that there were multiple shots. Give me a fucking break. The magic bullet theory is the complete bullshit of the century. But that's what they came up with to show that there was no conspiracy. So the third bullet, they put it in a stretcher. Now, there are reports that there were people standing over here, over Elm on the Interpass, that got fragments and chips in their face from cement. There's a couple of reports of that. Some people said they saw a flash and smoke from the grassy knoll, but it wasn't a front trajectory shot. Connolly was hit too. Connolly had 4 entry and exits and 1 in bed that did not follow through. Here is the magic bullet. Just so I can show you a diagram. I don't even know if we hit goal. I don't care.
Oh, we're $30 over.
All right, folks. Remember, you can still donate. We would appreciate it. We love you. So here is what I was telling you, just so you guys know. I have memorized this shit, y'all. I love this stuff. Okay. So here is the image. Let me blow it up. So this is they're saying is 60 foot high. So I've done listen, I don't have the technology and the ballistics that they have, but the math states that at a 60-degree angle, this bullet came in 5 3/4 below his collar. Here.
Even if it hit a shoulder blade and then took that sharp turn, there's nothing in the neck that would make it.
Right.
No.
So, let me finish. I know. Came in, hit him here, went up at a 30-degree angle, and moved horizontally 2.5 feet, and came out below his Adam's apple through his neck, through his trach. Moved forward near the right armpit of Connolly, went in, He was holding his Stetson. You saw it. He never let it go. Came through his right armpit. Fifth rib was shattered. Moves up at another 30-degree angle. Hits his wrist bone. Comes out at a downward of a 27-degree angle and winds up in his left leg.
That's 2 different bullets at minimum, is what you've got diagrammed.
And now you have a conspiracy. Now you know Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. And that's the thing. They say the Warren Commission said it was 3 bullets. If they said it was 3 bullets, officially it is now a conspiracy. It is a cover-up. And that is the why. So when people always go, oh, Matt, it's the mob or it's the KKK. No, the U.S. government filed a fictitious report. They left evidence. They left questions. Dude, I'm not a prosecutor, and I would have fucking destroyed every one of those witnesses. But the fact that they said it was 3 bullets proves, with no equivocation, that the United States government was complicit in a cover-up. And the only reason you cover it up is because the truth is too damaging. Because you're involved. Yeah. Okay? So when anyone tells me it's the Klan or the mob, and I'm like, that's fine, but they don't have the power, the capacity, or the understanding of how to do what was done. The shit that I just told you is just the surface.
That's crazy.
Take your minute.
I don't think we're gonna learn anything from this. I think that the release of the report is political at best. In other words, it's just something so that Trump can say that he's attempting to be transparent about the event, but it's been clouded over for so long, and to such a degree for so many years that nobody's ever going to figure it out. And whatever you read, it might give you 5% more of the truth or 2% more of the truth, maybe. But I don't think it will. There won't be any revelations to come from this. It's not like this is going to expose a literal smoking gun. So just everyone kind of calm down. This is for Trump and Trump alone to make sure that he can say that, hey, look what I was able to do.
He fulfills his promise.
That's exactly what it is.
Here's my 1 minute. Folks, when Reagan was shot, did the local police department do the interrogation? Nope. When J6 happened, did the local police department do the investigation?
No.
Which
is crazy because they really should.
I know. Don't go down there. The bomber for Boston, they do the investigation. The Luigi CEO shooting, did they do an investigation? Can anyone explain to me why Dallas PD held on to Lee Harvey Oswald for 24 fucking hours and the FBI didn't grab him and snatch him and take him back to D.C. under protective custody and take him to a safe house? Why? Why? Why would they leave him in Dallas PD custody? Why would they leave him with zero protection? Why would they allow all that media down there? Why did they allow public access for his perp walk? Why?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Why would you do that? So Ruby can kill him. Or appear that they can kill him and they can take him out. When he says he was a patsy, I believe he did. I believe that either A, he was involved with the CIA to uncover and was under deep cover to infiltrate the Cuban Castro movement inside the United States, which had a lot of people who wanted to kill Kennedy. But the way that he was reacted to, the way that the cover story came out, the way that they had the bio on him so quickly, the reaction to the movie theater of an unpaid ticket, no description was out for him. They didn't know who he was. He walked by 3 fucking Dallas PD officers getting out of the Texas School Depository, and they didn't lock it down. He got out.
Right.
He walked by 3 cops. And after he made the shooting, after killing the president of the United States, you know what? Instead of running out of the back exit, he goes into the cafe room of the Texas Book Depository where the employees go, bought a soda from the soda machine and sat down. there are too many inconsistencies in the story. There are too many inconsistencies that are not fog of war, because these are declarative statements that people have held on to for decades. And there is just too many truths that have come out.
True.
So here's what it comes down to. Will it be uncovered? No, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go through every fucking page and I'm going to read everything and I'm going to give it to you. And Leeroy and I are going to bring it to you. And we're going to have a great conversation and we'll see what we find out. But it comes down to this. It's just like it always is. There are no answers. And that should tell you something right there. That's it.
True.
Did you have fun tonight, buddy?
All right.
I hope you did. I know it was a long night. All right, pal. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for being on, folks. We're on.
I don't do a whole lot of conspiracy theory. That's not my forte, really. Generally speaking, every good conspiracy theory has, some level of truth embedded in it. So it's nice to dabble in this kind of thing every now and then. It kind of breaks me out of what I'm used to. So yeah, it was fun.
Somebody asked me one question about what book to read. Read David Lipton's Best Evidence. And they don't need to exhume the body because they already exhumed Lee Harvey Oswald. And the DNA did match. But that's not the point. I just don't believe he died in that garage. I believe he died later. That's it. All right. No conspiracy, just a whole bunch of stuff. Leeroy, thanks, buddy. See you guys tomorrow, 7 o'clock. We start early Friday. Olivia and I are on the show. And we can't wait to see you. Thanks, everybody. God bless. Have a good night.
See you guys on Tuesday. Be good.
Peace. See ya.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leeroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.